Brother phone. All right, Black African Power family, what's good? What's happening? A well-organized lie defeats a disorganized truth. Every time, woohoo, man, we got one of them good shows, man. We got, man, brother Chuck Morgan, right? We're gonna be discussing Nuwaupianisms. Gonna be a real good show. You know, people been asking a lot of questions, and they trying to really figure it out. Let me put this in real quick. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So hold on, let me mute this out. All right, so it's gonna be a real powerful show. You know, get them good answers in. I think correct information is always important because pseudoisms is what's really killing the community, man. It's kind of like taking a lot of our lives. For those who get caught up in cults and stuff like that, man, you know, it's good to have right information. So I spent 5 years in the Nuwaupian camp. I think I came in under Nuwaupu. It was a lot of good information and then a lot of pseudo information, and it was strangely mixed. And so just because you're in a cult don't mean all the information is going to be crazy and whacked out. What it does mean is you got to be careful and understanding what it is you're doing exactly. And so, you know, Brother Chuck, Brother Wudjau, what's good, Wudjau? Amon-Ra Squad up. Chef Mdw-nTr, what's good with you?
Hey, brother, how you feeling today?
I said Wudjau. I ain't even said you, Chuck. Hold on, Chuck. You the special guest.
Oh,
You special guest. Where you at, Wudjau? Where you at?
Yeah, I'm here. Amon-Ra Squad. Yeah, and I think, you know, a lot of people have been talking about Nuwaupu, Dr. York, Dr. Malachi York, Panabab, Yanun, and all the et al. Names that he is known by and called. And yeah, so I think, you know, discussions about it are long overdue, especially by people who are in the know to actually discuss the, you know, different subjects. I've seen a lot of questions, a lot of back and forth debating. I've seen, you know, on both sides, people who on both sides of pseudoism, and then people are accusing pseudo and things like that. So, but it's a lot of people who are don't really know what they're talking about that speak on these things. So I think, you know, a good topic to discuss will be that by people who know, especially with Chuck Morgan dealing with the Nuwaupianism.com website and all the information on there. I've seen people dodge that website. I mean, it's almost like, you know, it's like a plague. People are really dodging it. So it's good to have the brother on.
Okay. All right. Magi Archers, man, economic program, man. Y'all can go to Amon-Ra Squad .org and get you the Magi, man. Get his books and all that, man. What's going on, brother Smash? How you doing?
What's up with it? Amon-Ra Squad up. Magi Archers in the building. Just chilling. What's going on?
Ain't nothing, man. Just go ahead and get this powerful show. You know how we always have good information, man. So we're gonna let man, who's that noise in the background? What's that? Is that me?
Nah, that's my phone. I got people calling me left and right. Right. Sorry.
Oh, that's yeah. They know Chuck Ray go live.
Let me turn this thing off.
I'm just gonna mute it out. Hold on.
Yeah.
All right. There you go, Chuck.
Okay.
All right, man. So you know we got, man. Y'all already know we got brother Chuck, man. Man, talk to us, Chuck. You know, give us a little introduction and why do you feel like you qualified to deal with this subject matter? You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I spent 5 years in the Nuwaupians. You know, visiting the land back and forth. So that's why I'm here, just to really disseminate information. But you know, specifically you're coming on, and what's your qualifications to being able to speak on this matter, Chuck? Are you just a crazy guy making stuff up, or are you really qualified to give us the information we're looking for?
I like to think that I got a little bit of experience in this field. I came into this thing back in 1989, and when we first went up to meet with Dr. York on a personal level, that was the first time that I actually met him when I was in Baltimore. And I had been we got kind of close in terms of the way that I would do classes and, you know, going outside of the norm with the radio show. I guess he took a liking to that because prior to that, a lot of people didn't even dare to go outside of that little box that we had with the communities, where we have the question and answer classes. The average person wouldn't go on a radio show or a video show and really put themselves out there like we did with the whole question and answer format. So as time progressed, you know, with the community and some of the art that I did, you know, I made some connections with him, and we stayed in contact, and it really blossomed around 1996, 95, 96, and when we would do radio call-in shows to these Christian radio stations. And, you know, we would ask questions from the books. And I guess, you know, at that time, you didn't really have the internet as valuable as it is now. You see? So I was coming strictly from
Hold
the
on
books.
for a minute, Chuck. You the ones on those tapes from the radio stations, you were going there, Scriptures Unlimited?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, in Baltimore. Yeah.
Yo, listen to me.
The Mo Better Man show.
Mo Better Man, yeah. Hey, they was the best joints. Now, they used to be killing them with that. As a matter of fact, I kind of recommend some of them tapes right now. You feel me? Yeah, that was some good information you put out. Go ahead, though, Chuck.
It was interesting because with that whole setup, initially, when you would do the show, it was myself and a young lady I was with.
Right.
We would just call in, just randomly, wake up in the middle of the night, you know, and just call the show. And once that happened, I sent some of the tapes down to headquarters, and you know, York liked it. He was all, you know, he said, "Give me some more."
Right.
And they wanted more, and we was doing it from 12 midnight to 6 a.m. debating, arguing with Rick and whomever else it would be, Israeli church. We just stretched it out. So what York did was, he eventually he put the audio, you know, chopped it up, edited it, and then started releasing tapes and CDs.
Yeah,
I think it was about 11 of them in total. And I didn't know anything about it until people started telling me that they were releasing tapes, because we took some photos for the cover, you know, and I thought it was just going to be me and a bunch of other people. And then he just started trying to blow it up, and it was like, you know, Dr. Larry Morgan, this, Dr. that. So it culminated into this radio show that we had. It was myself, Jonathan Johnson, and someone else. And he was trying to set up a second triad of Atom Ray. You know. So he was going to have one in the north, one in the south. So being as though my relationship with York grew, he would call me, I would go down, I'd be able to talk with him. You know, it became like a real friendly, strong, friendly relationship. So, you know, he would give me some bit parts of information, how to elaborate on this, what you do here. One of the things that I do remember that always stood out was the Triad had just done something on a Sunday, and there was Mdw-nTr, Haru Hotep, Kansu, all these guys were all sitting around the pool. And, you know, he was listening. He said, I listen to the show. I listen to what you're doing. And then he said, you don't have to be right. You just have to sound like you know what you're talking about. So when he said that, I kind of took it back. And it's like, wow, so I can just lie all I want as long as I sound good saying it. You know? So that kind of had me scratching my head, because I thought it was all about, you know, truth. It's truth, and that's so that really kind of that started my my doubts for the most part, and I didn't get out of the organization officially or break off and just let it go until around 2011, because when he was going through different jails before he got convicted, we stayed in contact through the letters. Right. And he was like, keep the show going. I'm loving what you're doing. Keep it going. Keep my name out there, letting the people know, you know, I'm going to be home soon, da-da-da-da. And I think one of the last letters that I got from him was that I was telling him that people are, you know, sad to see him go. And it was more like a depressing kind of letter on his situation. And he was kind of irritated, I can tell from the writing. He said, y'all act like I'm dead, you know. And, you know, he said a few other things in the letter. And after that, I really didn't hear too much more from him. And plus, I think that he was going about to get that whole trial thing set up get started. So he didn't have much more access to me. So I didn't break off because of any disgruntledness that people claim. You know, me and the brother were fine. He never did anything to me. He gave me gifts. He gave me books and stuff when I had a store in Baltimore. He gave me all kinds of stuff. He said, "Yeah, I think it was like $6,000 worth of supplies," which was nice, And but ironically, when you would think that once you get it from him, it's a gift, then the office started saying that I need to start making installment payments on that money for the product. So, am I qualified? I'm just someone that was within the organization. I built a little infamy there for some, and I know what I'm talking about, and I try to always back it up with quotes, book references, audio recordings, video, so where people can see it. So it's not Chuck saying this. I'm just trying to share a counter to what the organization in its current form may want to keep going, because of what I'm seeing with all this Poteract and all these actual facts. A lot of the stuff that you previously wrote, they want to disown it. At the same time, they want to claim that he wrote 500, 600 books, all these other books. So if he wrote all of these books, right, why don't you acknowledge the content of those books and some of the statements that he's made, like Pickle Man? When that
hold on, wait a minute, man. What about Pickle Man? Come on, man. What about Pickle Man, yo?
Okay, I think it was the brother Malik. I can't remember his name, but he was just drilling the Nuwaupians wherever he would go on this Pickle Man thing. And York made a few references to it in a couple of books in his extraterrestrial. In his extraterrestrial books, that Supreme Mathematics series, and he was talking about how the Predator from the movie, the creature from the Black Lagoon, and Pickle Man. These are supposed to be, and okay, the way he set it up was, you can go to the website Nuwaupianism.com, which was set up to address, for the most part, the inconsistencies, the plagiarism, the right knowledge gone wrong, and the holy tablets on that site, in addition to the case and trial. So he put an image up of someone that he labeled Pickle Man. And in all my years of dealing with it and building with brothers, we never talked about it. It never came up. And I think it's for obvious reasons, because if the whole Nuwaupu thing was about evidence, experience, and reason, we're the sons and daughters. Yeah. How do you substantiate that? Now, that's just one of a plethora of nonsensical teachings that he brought forth. And so when people go off on this thing about he was one of the wise, I quote, the wisest man in the Western Hemisphere, how do you account for something like Pickle Man, the Predator, people being able, black folk being able to fly because we had wings, bats being able to, bats being the byproduct of birds and rats. You see? So
right. Just say that again, Chuck. Say that one more time.
One of the questions is, how did the bird and rat mate to produce the bat? York has never explained it. York has never elaborated on it. Many of these strange things that you find in the publications, York never talked about publicly. Never. He didn't touch it. He would make loose-fitting references to a book. He said we're popping some powerful information in these books, but he never explained any of the stuff. And for the most part, a lot of folks, if you ask those types of questions, you ran the risk of being cut off from whatever tabernacle you came from. Because if you're going to cut, like, I'll give you an example. When we would leave D.C. or Baltimore, if you go down to Georgia or upstate at the time, you had to ask the right type of question. You couldn't ask questions about this spooky, spacey stuff that he was talking about. I remember plenty of guys who used to come to the classes would always ask these, and they would claim themselves to be Melchizedek's brother. You know? So you couldn't go down there asking those types of questions. You had to ask something that was like out of a book or something that was more down to earth.
You know what? I agree with you. Let me kind of spin back a little bit to those more better classes. And I think it's a classic example of Malachi York using the talent around him and making it seem as if it was him that was kind of, you know, disseminating that information. And I find that very interesting because I can go get some of the tapes right now. You know what I'm saying? That's what I learned from. They were some of the best tapes. They said interaction with the Christians and all that. And it was trust me, maybe we should do a couple of them classes like that, Chuck. you know, all jokes aside, in the Bible class that I be doing, you know, so people can get kind of a working foundation of what the Bible is and how you was working it. But the point I want to really make is how I thought from the outside looking in, right? That was Malachi York's thing right there. So to come to find out, right, that it was really you and your invention, you know what I'm saying, in Baltimore, you know, that's a hell of a revelation right there. You feel? But that's how he did it all the time. Like, say for instance, like say if I take credit for Smash Rockwell's book, right, the Magi, the Handbook for the Conscious Community, and then take credit for Wudjau's book, you know what I'm saying, Beginner's Guide to Mdw-nTr. You feel me? Take credit for Asar's work. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of like what he did. He took the best minds around him and used their stuff and incorporated, made it seem like that's what it was. See, I recognize that he used a team, right? He used the team, but gave himself exclusive credit. That's a bunch of crap. And I think people need to really know that. You know what I'm saying? They need to really take a real good, hard look at that. And I think that's a lovely place for us to start. So basically, you can see that Malachi York actually took the talents of other people and incorporated it and made it seem like he was the smartest guy in the world. When the truth was, it was the people around him. I just kind of want to stay right there and let's talk on that a little bit, Chuck.
Yeah, there was a whole lot of brothers who did research, who like there was one brother, Mdw-nTr. People know him as Sadiq, one of the triad guys. All right, he would spend nights just studying, and he got into this Matrix book. There was a Matrix series, and he would bring it down, and you know, York would get kind of irritated by it, and then he started receiving questions based on the book, and then he would direct those questions to that brother. You know, he's the one bringing that kind of stuff. You know, so when it got to a point where York was off balance because of the lines of questions that may not be from his publications, he was thrown completely off and didn't really know how to respond. Or he'll give you the what we used to call in the community the runaround or the getaway, where you ask a question and then he'll take you all the way around something that's not even relevant, and then by the time you come back, you don't even remember. Oh, okay, he answered my question.
Hold on. Man, listen, that was Malachi York's strong point, the ability to tell stories, his ability to, and you be like sitting there saying, and you know, I'm very astute, I listen a lot, right, real focused, and I'm like, he didn't answer the damn question, but the story was so goddamn good, you be like, hell with it. But you're right, you hit it right on the nose. Absolutely. But go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah, and so with the show, one of the sisters would call me and would tell me that, Baba, he is really loving the show that you're doing up there. Because we would send these things out. We would do them Saturday, sometimes Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Because Mo Better Man, it was good for the ratings on his show.
Yeah, I know they was off the chain. I know.
Yeah, and I mean, especially that hour in the morning. So when we would send these things down, and these are some long takes. So he chopped up multiple and made just a massive series of these things, and got paid off it because I didn't receive any compensation monetarily. Right. But it's all right. But that was part of his thing, and I would give him. Oh yeah, I remember brother telling me y'all being pimped, and I was like, yeah, whatever. But in retrospect, what can you say? So books from Zachariah Sitchin's Earth Chronicles series. I mean, he really stretched that out around early 1990s when he started talking about the Anunnaki and Viru.
So let's talk about that. So that wasn't
that was
his own invention. That was basically based off of these Zachariah Sitchin series. I heard that before.
That definitely came out of the Zachariah Sitchin's model, because literally, if you go to the website, we have one question: why does Malachi York plagiarize, or is Zachariah Sitchin one of the masters who guides Dr. York's pen? Because I have side by side from book to book.
All right, hold on. That's on the website. Hold on for a minute, Chuck. Yeah. That's on your website?
Yeah.
Send me the link so I can put the link in there. Is it working? Is it operational? Is it somebody?
Oh yeah, everything is up. We got it. All the bugs and all the attacks have been removed.
Yeah, give me the website so I can put it in the chat room so the people can kind of get that and we can kind of direct them to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do this. We're gonna have to do this Malachi York series. We're gonna have to do it. You know, just to, and it ain't no bashing. We just giving them a good look because I didn't personally know him. I'm not gonna sit up here and lie like everybody like they met. But I did sit and listen to his classes. I was there one-on-one classes, right there listening, right? Brother Bunt, you know what I'm saying, was my primary teacher. On Auburn Avenue, All Eyes on Egypt bookstore on Auburn Avenue, right?
Right.
So I learned, my primary teacher that was Brother Bunt. Now, I ain't gonna sit up here in front like York was. I ain't gonna lie. A lot of people try to act like that. You know what I'm saying? So no, that's not it. But yeah, give me that web. Send it to me on the Facebook, so I can kind of put that.
I think with all these windows I have open and the video, it's kind of slowing my computer down.
All right.
But I do the best I can. So with that, he built a whole series, and his whole doctrine shifted. Now keep in mind, this all started after he was unceremoniously removed from New York. And now some people say, well, no, he wasn't chased out. But when Bilal Phillips wrote that book, The Ansar Cult in America, everything changed. All those sisters who were with him in the office, and everybody will tell you that. That's when everything changed, and he went up to Monticello, up in the mountains, where he called Jazza Abba.
So what happened? Hold on. What about the book? Let's talk about what about the book?
Well, the book, The Ansar Cult in America, it was a Muslim named Bilal Phillips who took it upon himself to write a book with folks who aided him on exposing York, what he taught, who he was, his bogus upbringings and origins, etc. So the book became really popular, and it opened the door to everything. He talked about the green room. He talked about, I believe, I'm not sure, but I think he talked about the sisters being on welfare, because when you had to move in the community, at least when we moved in, the young lady that I was with, you had to immediately go on welfare.
You get the food stamps.
Yeah, get the food stamps. Yeah, and I remember from what she was telling me, said that when they went down in groups, they used to refer to them as the holy whores. Yeah, because that's how it was. So he put all this information in the book, and there are a lot of points in the book that York never touches upon. And people can take from that and see if he was being sincere or not. But the book was pretty solid, and he wrote a rebuttal book to various points of Bilal Phillips's book. And I always recommend people to go to the Ansar Cult Rebuttal to the Slanderers, because in that book you have like a bio, York's own personal bio from himself.
Oh, you talking about the book we was having? That book? The one I got.
The Ansar, the big fat book he was giving away for free at one time.
I don't got that one. I got the one I had a couple weeks ago. I showed you that classic joint.
Yeah, it's the Ansar Cult.
That's the one. Okay, all right. I got you. I'm gonna go show everybody.
It's online. I mean, you can find it. How can I send you this link? Just send it to your
Facebook. Yeah.
Okay.
Send it to the Facebook.
Okay.
I got that book. I got that book with a young York on. I got that.
I recommend that book because a lot of the things that he would say after the fact, like he was saying that he was teaching Nuwaupu in 1967. You know, that's nowhere in his book. Matter of fact, you don't even find the word. Matter of fact, nowhere do you find him having any teachings related to what we see today as the reference point where Nuwaupians say, well, he was writing before Zachariah Sitchin, because people say, well, no, Zachariah Sitchin plagiarized from him.
Correct.
Because he was writing what was the book called? Bible Interpretations and Explanations and Nine Ball back in the 1960s, and that was supposed to be him. But in the rebuttal book, he doesn't mention anything about Amon-Ra. He doesn't mention anything about having any book series prior to that, because according to him, when he told us, and you still find it even in the rebuttal book, he was going in and out of jail in the 60s. You see? And he was also, just according to him, just getting out of the whole State Street Mosque with Sheikh Dawood now. You know, so there's a number of inconsistencies within that time frame of 1967 to 1970. Now, of course, he'll tell you that in 1970, yeah, I'm sending you that link now. In 1970, that was when he officially opened the Ansar charter in I think it was Coney Island, and then relocated to Brooklyn. But again, nowhere does he talk about the stuff that we hear Nuwaupians saying today of him having any prior books, especially on said topics of Nuwaupu, which is supposed to be the science of sound right reasoning. You know, and that's critical, I think, because he's within the Ansar cult book, he's giving you his history, his family, where he was born, when he started his official teachings, all the stuff. You know, and I can't stress enough for people to go and you know, check that book out. It's online now. I think it's on Scribs.com.
Oh, okay. All right.
And it's free. You can just look at it and you can make the comparison. Yeah.
That's wow. I got that book, man. Matter of fact, I got that book when I was locked up. I don't even know how I got the damn book. I was locked up, and some kind of way I just picked that book. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't realize that was York on that book. I promise you that. Well, you know, very interesting right there.
Oh, what when he was going under Reverend Dwight York, Imam Isa.
That thick one. That thick one we just was talking about.
Right,
yeah?
Because after that, and this is what had happened during that period, right after Bilal Phillips did the book, everything switched up, and he started writing a bunch of books on Sunni Islam.
Okay, right.
And he would put out little tracts and flyers like Christian, you know, you pass them out. You know, is Islam the Antichrist? Attacking Bilal Phillips. He put a heavy emphasis on Bilal Phillips and the whole religious doctrine. So today, when people say, "Why do you spend so much time talking about Dr. York and attacking the Nuwaupians?" So I always try to reverse the logic and say, "Well, why did York spend so much time on Bilal Phillips and Sunni Islam? Did he have a problem? Was there some kind of mental disorder that you're accusing me of?" You know, so you try to show the inconsistencies in their logic and reverse it on them, because anything that they try to label towards me, I could just simply, well, this is what York did. You know, because one fella did a video where he was attacking what he called the slanderers, and he was talking about, talk about plagiarism. Chuck Morgan, what he does is he, in the opening of his website, he has verbatim the whole setup of how York, when he started the 360 questions that asked various groups, he's using word for word plagiarism. How can he accuse York? That's exactly why I did it. I did it exactly the way he would do it. And I tell you, this is how it's done. So everything that I'm doing with the website, with the formulation of questions and answers, how we start the whole opening up, is based on his format. So I'm trying to stick to it from how I learned from him and the way that he instituted it in classes and in some of his publications, so that they'll see that, okay, you're going to have to play according to his rules, because he laid the foundation for you.
You know what? I mean, that was a hell of a system of learning, though. Right, wrong, or goddamn indifferent. The way he did the books, the whole system of you. Now that shit was. Now imagine if that was something that was really directing towards actually helping the greater populace with correct information. Now, how would that have worked out? Go figure that one out instead of for one man's game. You feel me? And I find that to be very, very damn interesting. In today's Nuwaupians, they're really uneducated.
Most of the guys that I see, or the ladies that are talking now, these are people who weren't even involved with the organization. Yes, they've never been around York. They've read a few books. They may have seen a few things online. They'll go to this website or that website. They don't really know the infrastructure of how the organization was structured, how York taught what. Because even when he did teach, when we would come down on Wednesdays and pick up supplies, you know, if he's around, he may give a bill, and then he'll elaborate on something, and he'll try to get, this is what you tell them, you know, no proof. That was always the big issue. You just elaborate on what he said, but you don't offer evidence to support what you're saying. And that was always one of his key commentaries in like the Set the Record Straight book, where he talks about they make statements and sayings, but they don't show the quotes, or they don't show the proof of the evidence to support what they're saying, which puts people in the same mindset of religious people.
Correct.
So there's a constant inconsistency. He'll say one thing one way one day, then he'll switch it up. You know? Now people will try to justify it and try to give it excuses, but this shows that this person either wasn't correct, there was someone else who's found out something else and they wanted to elaborate on another area, or he'll just disavow anything he said previously on another topic. You know? So a lot of the publications that we see now, I don't know how they're getting them, but these letters that were sent to various people, you know, the stores or the administration, whatever form they're in now, they'll just stress these things out, start adding little bit parts in it, and give you something of a new doctrine, when if you really look at what's in the current publications, it's really a lot of the old information that's been altered a little.
Correct.
You know, correct. And that's something I've been noticing, because some people have said, well, how come you never, you're still talking about old doctrine? We've passed those schools way back when. I said, no, I'm looking at the stuff that you're reading now, and I'm still seeing it. When I'm seeing this thing about the dog, the cat, and the rat, right? That's in the Potteract. Yeah. And it's still as spooky. Only thing that's changed is words, innovations in the language that he's using, that he's referring to as Nuwaupian. You know, it's still the same. And so Nuwaupians, who are the neo-Nuwaupians, latter-day Nuwaupians, you know, they're kind of stuck in this tunnel right now. And with Nuwaupianism.com, it's not necessarily directed towards them personally. My thing is, look, this is for a broader audience. Anyone who's familiar with this Nuwaupianism thing or this Nuwaupu thing and Dr. York, go to the site. There are some questions. They are loaded with visuals, quotes, references, so you can go to it yourself. Because when he said, don't believe me, check it out, I said, don't believe me, here it is. And you can verify it by going to the publication, because they are still in circulation. You can't say that you can't find them.
They used to kill, I'm going to give them, they used to kill that religion, though, boy. 360 questions to ask a Muslim. 360 questions to ask a Hebrew. They be some good ones, though. You agree or disagree? There was some good ones. I'm not gonna lie. But then at the same time, there's some parts in there where you can see that what you're just as guilty as saying that what they're guilty of. You're offering no evidence. Yeah, I agree to that. But you wouldn't know that, though. That's the point. You wouldn't know that. You wouldn't know. That's where the study came in. But because York was releasing so many publications at one time, you didn't have time to go back and check this and check that, especially if you were inside. If you were teaching this stuff, you didn't go back and check this. You had to go through these books. Oh, here come the new jewels. When the brother will come back from Georgia, and he got new books, he got like 5 new books. Let me get all of that. You're not studying them. You just want to have them. I'm gonna have them because people gonna buy them. The shit was going like hotcakes, man. I remember that. I tell you what, man, it caused me to read, though. You know, at
Oh
that
yeah,
point,
I
really
give him that.
focusing,
I
and
give
that
him
and that
credit.
made me sit down and read. It's a trip. You got, you know what I mean? I mean, the whole thing is interesting though, Chuck. And I think the thing that's really interesting is, man, when we think of a cult, we think of everything as being crazy and negative. But some kind of way he kind of you know, like rode that line back and forth. You know,
And that
we end up getting that. That's the interesting part, how he did that, though.
and that was the hook, because
That's the hook.
he can lure you in on some general information that you can access it. Oh yeah, I heard about that. And then he can elaborate, he can stretch it out, but not offer anything to support it. And then
Right.
you're thinking, the psychology is you're thinking, oh wow, that answers the question to that, but it doesn't offer evidence. And
Yeah.
that's how he lured you in, by giving you a little bit of truth here and a whole lot of untruths there.
You know what? You're right, Chuck. Now that I think back on it, it was a lot of misinformation being disseminated. I mean, a whole lot. If you was really up on your study game, you could have bust that out. And they never wanted you to question it. I mean, I used to get in trouble routinely in arguments, you know, with brothers in the lodge. You know, like, why are you questioning that? Why are you reading other books? I mean, I had like a Shikant Diop book I'm reading. You don't need to read other books. I say, well, goddamn. I'll never forget the book. What was the book? The Egyptian joint. He had some references. That was one of the ones he started putting references in. So I just got the books that he had in the reference. I was like, damn, I'm reading the goddamn books he had in the reference. You know, I'm trying to think of the name of the goddamn.
Ancient Egypt and the Pharaohs.
Nah,
Science of the Pyramids.
No, not that kind. You know, the little thick ones. You know what I'm talking about? Not the thin ones. But like like I got the newer. Remember I come to Nuwaupu, huh? No, I got like let's set the record straight. Hold on, let's set the record straight. And what's the other one before that? The Egyptian book. Damn. He got the stat. He had the stat. Hold on, let me get. Hold on. Go ahead, keep talking, Chuck. I'm gonna go grab it off my library. Hold on.
Okay. Well, yeah. So, a lot of those publications, he was conflicted, because at one point he started venturing into this whole Sumerian dialogue with us, and then it started becoming released on audio and videos, and then he made a shift and started going into the Egyptian thing. And what's funny now is that guys are talking about, well, you're talking about Sumer and all that. That was one of the schools we passed, but now he's got a lot in the publications now. So he's not consistent in his position on one school of thought, because even when one thing I find that when Nuwaupians always say that he taught us these different schools, he took us through the 3 degrees: Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. Okay, and then they go on up this ladder, etc. But when he was in 1990 in Jaza Abba in upstate, he was talking about, at this point there's no more religion. You know, this all about right knowledge. It's right Nuwaupu. And that's something that's going to come later down the road. And as we went further and further down the road within that 1990s era, he reverted back into the Christianity that he talked so bad about. And this is on the audio. It was two audios that came out. 2 of his last classes on Tamaray, where it was You Want to Question Me and I Taught You. On that CD, you can hear York embracing the whole Christian concept, on how he was watching the Word channel, and on the Word channel, a preacher was talking. Then he stopped and looked in the camera, and he said, "I'm talking to you, Malachi." And then York said that he stepped back and said, "This brother's talking about me." And then at this point, he accepted Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior, and it's on the audio. I posted it on the website. I have the transcripts from it, and I asked people to go to it and check it out. But Nuwaupians, in their fear of having to deal with this, I don't know why they're afraid of it, because the whole thing that we were taught is you had to answer questions. But here York is talking about Christianity and Jesus of 2,000 years ago was real. And one of the conspiracies is to say that he wasn't a real person of 2,000 years ago. And then they're still making excuses on, well, he said that because that was down in the Christian Bible Belt and that was for them down there. No. That's what he was saying and telling us inside and out. And even Kathy Johnson was talking to me about that, and she was saying that he really started embracing that. And in my opinion, this is opinion now, he was already aware that the kids were talking about what was taking place with the sex allegations, and it's almost as if like people who, when they get into this this fear that they're going to be arrested soon, they try to change their whole image. And so he started, you know, embracing the Christianity thing, and talking about how he started Nuwaupu, and I was really comfortable in Egyptology, but I'm accepting Jesus, and what's the problem with that? And anyone who tries to tell you, look to your neighbor or your brother and sit next to you, and if he tries to tell you that's not what I mean, get away from that brother. Mm. So this is after the whole Nuwaupu thing, right knowledge, Christianity, the whole series, the God series, where God misinterpreted, and is there a God? Does God need religion? Is God a wimp? All this stuff. I mean, these were all money-making gimmicks that made York a multi-millionaire. The books made York a millionaire.
Yeah, here you go. Here go one of the books that made him a millionaire.
Oh yeah,
Jesus found Egypt.
That book is interesting. You pull that one up. That was a book that he wanted me to promote on the radio station, because when we were debating Christians, okay, the brothers from the Israeli church would have classes on radio in Baltimore. So I figured, okay, let me tap over here and start dealing with them. So I started calling in and questioning them on some of the stuff they teach. And so there's I forget which page, I think it's 237, I'm not sure. He put up a lot of the questions or the comments in that book is based on some of the things that was being said by the Israeli church. And one of them was that Abraham taught the Egyptians arithmetic.
Oh yeah. I don't know where to find it in the book, but yep. But go ahead.
That's because he gave me a different copy, because I was proofreading a lot of the books. Okay. So you know, if there's any errors, I let them know, and then we correct them. And so I never really got that particular edition. So from what I hear, he put it in a book, and he was telling me, this is what you go to them and ask them to explain. How did Abraham teach the Egyptians arithmetic when the Egyptians had this and that prior, etc., etc. Yeah. So it's in the book. So that book was something that I promoted for him in the North, and he had me speak at the I forget which year, but it was one of the Nuwaupu balls. The Triad had come on after me, and I came up, Larry Morgan, and, you know, talking about the Jesus Found in Egypt book. And, you know, going on the radio and pushing it, and, you know, it generated some serious funds. Yes, it made him rich. Those books made him rich.
Look, yeah, you know what's funny? On page 9, right, you'll see Malachi York, he'll use a Dr. Ben reference, right? Yeah. That's interesting, right? He talks about just add the letter Ta, talking about Ta to the name Mary, and you get Ta Mary. And that's another way to spell Egypt in Egyptian, Tamari or Tamare. It say read Abu symbol to Giz by Yosef Ben Yaakov. Right here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? That's interesting. Interesting.
Ain't that interesting?
Yeah, because as you know, just like with the videos that we have on YouTube, how he would disparage Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, and anybody else who was going up against him at that time. He would. When I was in D.C., he would ask, because I knew the brother Mark Thompson at WOR Radio, and Mark Thompson and Dr. Ben were real close. He would always have Dr. Ben on his show, and he was really close with Dr. Ben. So he would ask me, can I talk to Mark and get a word through him to Dr. Ben to come down to Tamaray, so that he could see what we built down there. But Dr. Ben, as I talked to Mark, he was saying that, you know, Ben was like, man, I don't have nothing to do with that man. That man talked bad about me.
Yeah, he said that.
So
like,
yeah, he got shot. He got shot down quick with that, and I had to tell him that. And what was funny about that, York had this knack for using people to his advantage. So he would have. I'll give you a couple examples. All right.
Great at it. He was great at it.
Jesse Jackson was going through his southern tour where he was registering people to vote. Right. So York had got somebody to contact his office and invite them on to Tamil Ray.
Yeah.
For the voter, to get people to register to vote.
I was there.
Now, what happened was York wasn't there. He was there on the land, but he didn't show up face to face. What happened was, because for years York had already talked about Jesse Jackson being implicated in Martin Luther King's assassination, etc. But he got one of the brothers, I think it was Horror-Hotep, to encourage Jesse to put on one of the fezzes. Now, Jesse didn't put the fez on, but what they did was he put it like this, and then he didn't put it all the way on. So in the newspaper that came out after that, about a month later, you see a Photoshop of the fez on Jesse Jackson's head saying that Jesse Jackson is a Nuwaupian.
Yeah, I remember that.
I mean, he did that to Al Sharpton. He did it to Leonard Jeffries. Now, Dr. Leonard Jeffries came down one night, and he started elaborating on how he liked Tamil Ray, and he loved what what the Nuwaupians were doing down here, etc. And York would eventually come out. York came out, but he did it in such a covert way. He came down, went behind the seat. He came down and went behind the seat, and thanked Leonard Jeffries for showing up, and left. But he didn't go on stage to talk to Leonard Jeffries or anything like that.
No, it's all changed. Look, let me show you something real quick. And these notebooks started coming out, right? He started having bibliographies in there all of a sudden. Like, let's set the record straight, right? He has a bibliography, right? All right. Yeah. That's something new. He wasn't using bibliography.
Well, see, you got to look at the time frame on that. See, what had happened when he was moving into the United Nuwaubian Nation of Moors gimmick, right? There were some of the brothers who were his best teachers. You had if I can remember some of these guys' names. Wudjau, if you remember some of the names, I think one of them was Kurt not Kurt Franklin, what's his name? Kurt Ovington. Now, he was a very sharp brother, and these guys started looking at the books in study, and they started looking at the pattern of plagiarism from other authors. And over time, they came to the conclusion that, this is kind of bogus, and started asking questions, and the questions led to them kind of having to move on. So they started going on this campaign down in Georgia, exposing the plagiarism of York. And so they will make points that, well, he has no bibliography in the books. Well, you can go back and check, where is this coming from, where is that coming from? And shortly thereafter, here they come.
Bibliography.
Because at one time, they, you didn't have that. You would just have, his books being advertised or future books to come.
That's right.
But as time progressed, he moved on incidences. It was like precedents. Okay, when they started coming at him, well, you didn't do this, then he would put it in. Then he started talking about Zechariah Sitchin, saying that Zechariah Sitchin, he started plagiarizing from me because I was teaching back in the 1960s. This stuff talking about Nuwaupu and the Anunnaki and Murdar, Enki, Enlil, etc. But you don't find that. Matter of fact, even if you read some of those publications that wasn't written by York, some of the things that's written in there, it's not in his doctrine. He didn't talk about that. And even if that, and that's another question on the site.
Yeah, he didn't even use the book. If you look at the damn references in the book, like let's set the record straight, right? Yeah. He talks about Ivan Van Sertima. They came from Columbus. He's not really using that.
No, it's not.
No,
And
that's funny how he did that.
and that's one of the things that Nuwaupians who get caught up in this plagiarism thing, they don't even understand the whole concept of plagiarism, period.
No.
So I've tried to put definitions out there for them,
Right.
and not even realizing that York will make commentaries that are literally lifted completely off of a publication from someone else, not put in brackets his words, separating his words from another author's words. He just let it stretch all the way through, and just by having, if at best he'll even put the name of a book in his publication, it's not going to a specific quote. This quote is from this person, page so and so. He doesn't do that. So it all came like in the Set the Record Straight book, and that whole series dealing with Moors, those little newspapers. He doesn't give any of those direct references. There are some, because there was a lot of the sisters who were doing all that typing, because York didn't write these books, for people who don't know.
Oh, you sure he didn't write 300 books? Are you kidding me?
No. As a matter of fact, there's another question on Nuwaupianism.com where the question is asked: does Malachi York, is he the author of 400 to 500 books? Or is he in the Guinness Book of Records as having 400 to 500 books? And of course, you lay out a section of how many people are in the Guinness Book of Records on publications, because the Nuwaupians say he is, but he's not. But a lot of the books, they're just dictation. He'll make comments. They'll take one book and then re-release the book with maybe 2 or 3 new pages. Correct. And that constitutes as a new book by changing the cover.
Yeah.
Or you'll have other people in the community who have received the okay to have their name attached to a publication and talk about something, no references, and then that too is classified as part of his book series. Or he'll you'll look at the Torah, El's Torah, El's Injil, Al-Zabur, Holy Tabs, all of that is put into his book series, and then they just pile it all on. Not talking about a book that was someone else's book completely, like the Prophet Khalil Gibran. You take the whole book.
Yeah, he took that whole book,
and then just put that's another book that he authored.
Just like the Circle 7. The Circle 7. I got that too.
That's considered his publication.
Yeah,
therefore, that goes on the pile.
He took Let me ask you this. You familiar with this right here? I bet you don't got this. Black Book 2.
I had that book, yeah. The second one,
got that, dude. Black Book 2.
I had, yeah. He gave me that when it first came out. Matter of fact, mine was a red cover.
Who got the Black Book 2 though, Chuck? Everybody got Black Book 1. Come on, man. This
No. The second Black Book. The second Black Book. I think I was the only one who had it, because when I was doing a radio show, he told me that you need this, so he sent me the book just like the one you have, that was photocopied, but he had the Shriners emblem with it was in color. Okay. So he told me to study it, use it whenever you do your show. Because I started dealing with Moors, and we didn't restrict.
Wudjau got it. Look, is that book?
That's the one I had.
Now hold up, everybody ain't got these though. Let's keep it real though, Chuck.
Yeah, those are books
This is the color version, for the record. This is the color version.
Oh, everybody don't got these. I'm trying to tell you. We can sell it. We can get some money. Any Nuwaupians out there, I'm selling this. 500 things. Okay? Now, Chuck, man, let's rev it up a little bit, man. Let's get a little. One more thing. Are you familiar with these books right here? I think he plagiarized out of here, yo. Look, The Nature of Nature by Afro Unu. You familiar with these?
Yeah.
You heard of these?
I'm familiar with the brother who really is going at York on that alone, and I give them applause for all that they're doing. It would be better to talk to one of them in regards to how York is taking from
book, right?
excerpts from their book, because York was famous for doing that kind of stuff.
Yes. Yeah,
you know, they have a very strong, valid argument in their favor, because again, York never talked about this stuff. On one hand, York said that in a letter he wrote that he's not Afro, the brother who wrote those books. He said he's not him, and then now recently he's saying that the guys studied under him.
Look, it's right here. Talking about non-ether. Non-ether is coming from this book right here.
Yeah, they talk about that. Yeah.
See, and everybody think they're attributing to Malachi York, but in this book right here, they're talking about non-ether. Yeah. Ethiopians.
Yeah.
Hey. See?
Yeah. This is what, and York started this in 1990. Mm-hmm. That was when he started this stuff, and because he was going on and on, you asked questions, but you didn't probe too far, or you didn't, how he was saying.
This book was written in 1993.
It may have been a re-release.
Okay.
But it goes back to the early, the mid to late 60s.
With this book right here?
Yeah.
Wow.
If that's the one, I'm talking Bible interpretation and explanations.
This the
now with that publication, that's their publication, and those you would have to consult with them to be able to elaborate on that. That's not my expertise.
It's crazy. Okay, let's get right into it, man. Let's get it cracking a little bit around here. All right, we had our little honeymoon session. Now let's deal with Dr. York's son coming on Sarnetta TV. All right, and trying to reintroduce the doctrine to the people.
Right.
This is totally unacceptable. We're gonna stand on the truth around here. It is what it is. So basically, let's kind of discuss some of the information he was talking about. Let's kind of talk about that a little bit. What was the matter of fact? The young brother wasn't even old enough to even see his father teach like that.
No, he wasn't.
All right, let's get that straight, right?
No, he definitely wasn't.
but I be damned, he did look like the old man, though. You gotta give him that. He had it going, boy.
No, because everybody was a clone of Dr. York.
That's
I went out, and let me tell you something. I was so into York and what he taught and how he taught, and I wanted to emulate him in every form. I even, check this out, I would even bleach my beard when he went through that whole period of having, when he used to dye his beard or bleach it, he bleached his mustache and beard. I started doing that and wearing the glasses like his with the string attached to it. Yeah. And when I would do classes, I was Dr. York. And you couldn't tell me otherwise, because in his thing, the way he would say, you have to personify me, you have to become me, you have to, all that kind of stuff.
And he liked that. How you get the glasses? How you get the glasses?
Yeah, that was his thing, or he would do it like that. Yeah.
With that way,
I mean, it was comical. So the young brother, took it upon himself to want to step out there and say some things. And unfortunately, the stuff he was saying is, dude, it's not there.
Let's deal with 5 points. What's the one point he made?
Well, the main point that I put out there that he really got upset about, as the brother Malik was questioning him, when he started talking about the Liberian government being sued by York's attorneys. And then when he said that, we looked into it and come to find out all throughout that issue, they pointed out that this guy was never even issued something called exequatur, which is something from the government that he is to be a diplomat for. He was never issued one to go and do anything, nor did the United States State Department issue a exequatur for him on behalf of the Liberian government. So that first part was they dismissed that whole lawsuit, because you can sue anybody for anything.
Correct.
It's whether you win or not. And York, that thing was dismissed for lack of anything. It was bogus. It was frivolous. And you can only conclude that that lawsuit was put there purposely to give the impression that, well, we know he lied about being a Liberian diplomat. So by him attempting to sue, and you can come back and say, oh, they don't want to acknowledge him as being a Liberian diplomat because what he was teaching at the time, and that was against what the Liberians felt that he should be doing, and that's false. That's totally false.
Mm.
He didn't have anything, because whenever you ask a Nuwaupian who talks about this Liberian thing, never ever once do they show any evidence to support it. The only thing that they had early on was a passport, but the passport was a prison photo of York.
Stop it.
So how you gonna have a Liberian passport when the guy has a photo while he's in jail with the orange jumpsuit? And that was one of the questions that is on the site. So one of the questions asked is what evidence is asking the Nuwaupians and Prince York, what is the evidence that you have that proves Dr. York to be a Liberian diplomat? And he goes on, meaning his son, one of his sons, he starts going on this tirade about the lawsuit, but never once does he offer any evidence. He didn't even want.
Oh, you stuck out there, Chuck.
Look like you froze up.
He froze up. Oh, okay, Wudjau. Now, until Chuck gets back in there, you froze out, Chuck. All right, what is your qualifications, brother, as far as dealing with that matter, the Liberian issue? Was you ever involved with the court case at all, Wudjau?
Oh boy, yeah. I definitely was involved with the court case. Anybody knows me, I am an ex-Nuwaupian, and I lived on the land of 404 Shadedale Road, and I was one of the people that worked intimately on Dr. York's legal case from start to finish. I was directly involved with all the attorneys, directly involved with Dr. York himself. I was even his minister of record, pastor of record, so I would visit him in all the prisons that he was in, and I visited him under regular visitation. So I was visiting him as a pastor, which was one-on-one visitations for 6 hours each visitation, and I was visiting him with other people, his relatives and his sibling, sister, and then other people that were on the visiting list. So I had basically double visitation privileges, and even the other Nuwaupians that were working to help him and things like that. So as far as this is concerned, my qualifications are, I have I have imperial direct dealings with everything. I was privy to every single document, every single court hearing. I attended every single court hearing, even with the planning and zoning prior to the criminal charges, and then all of the criminal proceedings. I think, brother, who's that? Brother, I got muted.
Hey, Albert, who is that? Is that you, man? Come on, man. Mute your mic out, man.
All right.
Good.
So, yeah, I mean, not to get long with it, but,
No, you ain't long. Go ahead. So basically, you was what? His counsel, his clergy, what?
Well,
who gave you access?
Yeah, for purposes of prison visitations, I was his minister of record. So I was on the federal. I could actually visit him and other inmates because I went through all the prerequisite requirements to become a prison minister, so that I can be able to visit him with those privileges. So I'm on record for that, but then also regular visitation. But what qualifies me as far as to speak on any of the legal issues was because I was there for every single legal issue. I was there for all of the different attorneys, all of the different meetings we had, all the different court hearings, and informing Dr. York of what was and what was not true, and things like that. So when it comes, that's my qualification. But when it comes to the librarian issue, when Ramsey speaks, they call him Prince York, but his name is Ramses. I mean, that's the name I know him by.
Okay.
When he was speaking about it, what Chuck had mentioned was a exequatur. It's the actual paper instrument that actually is the contract that allows a sending state or nation to send their diplomatic agents to a receiving state, and it is the agreement between two nations or two states to afford this particular person the ability to carry out their duties, and in the goings of carrying out their duties, they are afforded diplomatic immunity. But all this stuff is ironed out in a contract, and the sealing document, they refer to it as an exequatur. And so what Chuck Morgan is making mention of is this: in this so-called lawsuit, there was never an exequatur issued in relation to Dr. York whatsoever from Liberia itself. And see, this was known prior to any lawsuit being filed. This was known all the way back in 2004. So these attempts that were done now, as Chuck mentioned, they're frivolous. So it kind of leaves you with the education that it was only done just to pretty much give some fluff to the idea of the Liberian issues. All those Liberian issues were dead before they started. All the way back in 2004. None of that stuff, everything that they're talking about with Liberia was already known and said. I mean, I can actually show you documents where everything that's being said now was said in 2004 in terms of all the rejection, the fact that Dr. York, none of the paperwork existed, and all this stuff was known. Because see, one thing I did when I was a member, I was responsible for updating the Nuwaupian community of all the legal things, and I used to supply everyone with these legal documents, and I used to teach on the legal case. So I know firsthand. I was teaching this stuff. I was actually explaining to people what was going on, when it was going on. So back in 2004, I was already explaining to people that the Liberian issues are dead, that some other, what other administrative remedies that Dr. York has, that needs to be pursued, and people need to actually discontinue with the Liberian issues. But it wasn't dropped. A lot of people still move forward with it, and Dr. York himself didn't want to drop it. So because it's his life and his choices, ultimately, he has say so over his own life, and you have to respect that. So I respected it, and other people worked on it. I stayed away from it. I had nothing whatsoever to do with any of those Liberian issues at all. And I was always trying to inform him of the consequences of moving forward on X, Y, and Z. So what appeared in the community, there was a beef between me and some of the other, well, not some, but another sister who was responsible for the Liberian issues. And people saw that as a beef between me and the sister, but it wasn't at all. It was based on what was possible, what was not, what was frivolous, and what was not.
Okay. That's interesting. All right, what's the next piece, Chuck, in the video? Saw on the TV. So we got the Liberia issue straight. All right. Oh, Chuck and Black fell out again. All right, it's all good. Where you at, Wudjau? You still here, right?
Yeah, man.
Okay. All right. So did you watch that video, correct?
Yep.
All right. So let's deal with another issue that was in the video.
From what I remember from the video, the brother Ramses mentioned.
What about the plea? What about the plea bargain?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit. Let's kind of get into that a little bit.
Well, what he
we're talking about the plea bargain right now, Chuck. Go ahead.
All right. What was mentioned in the video by Dr. York's son Ramses is that he mentioned that a lot of people questioned the plea. And so he goes on to say, and I'm paraphrasing because I haven't watched it in a while. He goes on to say something like Dr. York took the plea, and when he took the plea as in terms of sacrificing himself to save some other sisters that was in prison as well. And that is far from the truth, because at the time Dr. York took the plea, which was in January of 2003, the sisters that Ramsey is speaking about, they weren't even in jail at all. And those sisters, I guess I won't mention their names, but they are, well, I mean, they're on record, but it was three sisters. It was his quote unquote main wife that that people labeled her as, and then 2 other sisters who were in custody and incarcerated based on as being co-defendants. 2 sisters was in the state, and then his wife, Kathy Johnson, was in the federal custody as well. So what Ramses is trying to make reference to is that Dr. York took the plea in terms of sacrificing himself to save the sisters and so on and so forth, and to save the land, save the sisters. There's a whole spin and spill and speech that they give regarding that, but that was completely false, because the sisters weren't even arrested at the time. They had already been released, and they were already out, and you know, pending their, you know, their court appearances and things like that, but they weren't in jail. So that's one statement that was wrong, and people are completely unaware of that. But because this is something that Nuwaupians have created as an explanation, what is happening, that each Nuwaupian that comes up that wasn't a part of that original to be there originally to see all of it happen in real time, these are things that are being taught down the line. So all they're doing is repeating and parroting the same information. And so Ramses is another person that's just simply repeating what he was told. This is not something that he was there and know. Whereas me, myself, I was there. I know. I saw the sisters being released. I was there.
And we had a photo to show it.
Right, and you know, and there's photos, and see, the thing is, all these people are accessible. I mean, are still, you know, around, still accessible if they're willing to talk to you. They'll tell you right out themselves that, you know, when they were released, or when, you know, their feelings on this and that and the third. So, but anyway, that's another point that was incorrect that the brother said.
Somebody said you kicked them out. You kicked them out. You kicked them on the land, kicked them out. You was security, you kicked them out. That's funny. All right, man. Okay. All right. So, all right. Now,
wait, hold up. Okay. Dark Side of the Force said I kicked him. He said I was a security on the land. That man. See, that's what I'm saying. See, listen, I'm gonna tell people who are on the chat right now, the trollism and all that stuff don't work with me. All right, you know. People that stuff don't work with me. I don't even know the brother. The brother don't know me. I was never a security person. Right? So you got me either mistaken from somebody else, or, you know, you just trolling just to be funny, and that's cool. We could laugh and joke, but, you know, I don't play with that. So go ahead.
All right. So all right. What up? Okay. So we ain't talk about the plea bargain, though, right? Come on. Hold on, man. Where's that noise coming from now? Somebody got a truck. He's actually driving the truck.
Oh, that's in the background. Sorry.
Oh, okay. All right. So did we talk about the plea? We ain't talking about the plea bargain, Wudjau. You went off. What?
Oh, I went off on a tangent. No.
Yeah.
I was talking about the plea. The plea is, you know, as far as the brother Ramsey's statement. You asked me about another point, so that's something that he was incorrect on. But in terms of the plea itself, there's 2 pleas that Dr. York took. It was 2 pleas, 1 day apart, in 2 different venues. One was in. Hey Chuck, you could mute your mic.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it on my mic. Yeah, I'm gonna mute.
Okay. Yeah, there was 2 plea agreements that York entered into, and one is for the state and one is for the federal. And there were 2 days.
Now hold on for a minute, Wudjau. I see that right there, black. That's the Malachi York diplomat thing, but he got a picture of it with a That's crazy, yo. All right, we see it. All right, go ahead, Wudjau.
Yeah, okay, so as far as the plea agreement goes, there was 2.
Okay.
And there's a lot of people who don't know there are 2, but there were 2 plea agreements, one for the federal, one for the state. And
okay.
They were entered in 1 day apart from one another, January 23rd, 2003. And one plea dealt with child molestation, because and this is another thing that Ramses and other Nuwaupians make a mistake. They'll say that Dr. York isn't incarcerated for child molestation, or, you know, has nothing to do with child molestation. It's RICO and this and that.
Yeah, because the feds don't got that, right? Don't got a child molestation. But go ahead, though.
Yeah. Okay. But anyway, there was two pleas. One was in the state case. The state case did involve child molestation, aggravated child molestation, and a couple of counts. These are different counts, and also dealing with rape and so on and so forth. There was 208 counts in the state case, and they reduced it to 77, which he agreed to and pled guilty for. So that was the state, and then the federal, it was dealing with different Mann Act and RICO Act violations, but he pled guilty in both. Long story short, the federal pleas and state pleas are handled differently by the court and by the rules of the court. In federal venues, a plea bargain is bargained between both sides and agreed upon, but then it has to go through the actual judge, the court itself, and the judge has the ultimate say-so, because the judge has to look at the agreement and judge it or weigh it against the sentencing guidelines to see if it's appropriate and so on and so forth. If the judge finds that it's not appropriate, then the judge has discretion to reject it, and then has to give his reasons for it rejecting it, and then you go back to the negotiating table to make adjustments if you want to continue to move forward, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, the federal plea was rejected months after York entered into it, and the state plea remained. To this very day, York's state guilty plea is still on the record, and York never removed it back. And this is something that while I was a Nuwaupian, I was stressing to him, Dr. York himself, and to every single Nuwaupian, that in order for anybody to champion in support of York's innocence, you first have to get rid of the guilty plea, because it makes absolutely no sense to have a guilty plea on record but then say you're innocent. That makes no sense whatsoever. So I was pushing that the guilty plea in the state would always have to be removed, but it was never removed, and to this very day it's still on record. So that's something else that the brother was incorrect about in terms of the pleas. But that's really, I'm just giving you a real summary. I mean, like I said, it's I can get real long-winded with it, but that's the gist of it.
So basically, he didn't accept the plea. He plea bargained, but he didn't go with it. So they end up going to trial. Why didn't he just go with the plea bargain?
Well, hold up, wait a minute. It's important to know that Dr. York did not withdraw either plea. This was not Dr. York. Dr. York entered both pleas, and he never rejected either one. It was the judge that rejected Dr. York's plea of guilt in the federal, and because the reason why he rejected it was because it was given 15 years, and the judge said that's too low. The minimum based on the sentencing guidelines was 20 years. So the judge would only agree to 20 years, whereas the plea agreement itself was for 15. So therefore he rejected it, and then by being rejected, therefore the federal case went to trial. But at no time did Dr. York withdraw that plea. The judge rejected it, and I say it that way because people, like I said, people are under the impression that people are thinking that York entered a plea to save the other women, and then when they were all safe, then York withdrew his pleas because of this, that, because of whatever. But none of that's true. The sisters weren't even locked up when he did it, and he never withdrew either plea. And to this very day, the state plea is still on record. The federal plea was rejected by the judge.
And shoot, he'd have been almost home by now, huh?
Yeah, if it was 15 years, then yep.
It was 20. You only hit there about 17.
No, it was they were both concurrent, so he would have did the way it was made was that he was serving 15 for both. That was the agreement, 15 for both the state and the federal.
All together. They ain't want that. They wanted 20. Okay. All right. So what else was in that video? Chuck, where you at, Chuck?
Oh, there was I watched the video. To be honest with you, I couldn't take too much of it because it was just too much garbage coming out of this kid's mouth, and I have a low tolerance to that kind of nonsense. I mean, he was hearing the guys say, you're like royalty and this and that. He was just basking in his father's legacy. So I just zeroed in on those things that were key that people may have walked away with and thought that he knew what he was talking about. And one being the whole Liberian issue. Did another video on, I think it was the timeline of when York was supposed to, because I think not only that, there was another a person who, I don't know who he is, but I don't want to keep blowing these people up and giving them some kind of notoriety, but some guy did a video saying that Wudjau was wrong about, you know, Kathy Johnson being in jail at the time York gave his guilty plea. And, you know, it's documented. I even put up the news clippings from the next day on the Nuwaupian debate forum where people can see that everybody who's saying that he gave that plea in order to get these people out is totally false. So these people are just making just making complete lies and fools of themselves saying this stuff, but they're trying to appeal to an audience who's not familiar with not just the doctrine, but the case and the trial. So I tried to, on the Nuwaupianism.com website, their leader, those issues pertaining to the trial, you know, what was said by the victims, the witnesses, because the way that is illustrated, you don't have these people who were molested as being human beings. They're just people. They're just characters almost, you know. And when you start putting faces to the names and what they said and how they broke down in court on what they experienced, people started looking at it differently. And I think that that was the turning point for Nuwaupianism.com and its credibility, because we were able to put this stuff out there so people could see it, because prior to that, no one knew what was taking place. So York had the mic, so to speak, and the Nuwaupian organization had the mic on how information is going to be dispensed on what's taking place with the whole court issue.
And
So, go ahead.
Just to speak on that, see, and this may be the first time people hearing this right here. This the thing. All right, in the administration of Nuwaupians, there was a team of us working to help Dr. York dealing with all of the legal issues. There was supposed to be a separate team that was supposed to be a PR team, public relation team, that was supposed to maintain, you know, the public's view of Dr. York and the organization. And you know, the goal is to keep it in a positive light, because anybody that's charged with, you know, crimes like that, you have to have a PR in place to do damage control, you know, image control and everything like that. Okay, so what was supposed to happen and what was attempted was to create a legal team and to create a PR team, and the PR team was supposed to be headed by a very eloquent and articulate sister. Forgot the sister's name. And then the legal team, you know, it was all of us happened on a legal front. So anyway, long story short, the PR team was never formed and never solidified. So what ended up happening is a lot of flyers were written by the administration, and these flyers is what a lot of Nuwaupians are reading and counting on and quoting from and parroting. But these flyers were not meant for Nuwaupians. The flyers were meant for a image damage control. So the flyers are not necessarily all truthful. They were you know, some exaggerations. It was basically propaganda. It was propaganda form. Now the administration was not supposed to be the ones to create it and disseminate it though, and because the administration did, Nuwaupians took it in and Albert, you have to mute your mic. Mute your mic one more time. I don't know if somebody can mute it.
Hold on, let me see.
Oh, there you go. I got it. So anyway, so the administration was never supposed to be the ones to disseminate this propaganda. It was supposed to be in the hands of a separate PR team that was different than the administration, and it never formed. So anyway, enter in a company or a group called Georgia Gossip. It was originally called Atlanta Gossip, and then it got renamed to Georgia Gossip, and it's headed by a sister, Tara Bodie or Nicole Bodie. And She had a magazine, a basically gossip magazine going on. She was trying to get it off the ground and everything. So, and she's a Nuwaupian, loyal Nuwaupian at the time. I don't know her status right now, but anyway, so it was an opportune time for her to utilize what she wanted to do to become that PR. To become that PR, that public relations, and it would give a third-party perspective on what was going on. By her having Georgia Gossip looks like a different company and so on and so forth. Anyway, there was a fallout from that happening. So the exaggerations and the spins were supposed to come through her gossip column, but it never. So what's all that noise? Okay. So the gossip column was supposed to be the outlet for all of this information that came out, and it eventually came out in the flyer. So the Georgia Gossip thing never took off the ground in terms of that's concerned, because it was a fallout between Dr. York and his sister and the administration. So anyway, the administration ended up having to put these flyers out. So I'm saying all that to say is that a lot of the information that you hear Nuwaupians repeat and repeat is coming from these series of flyers. You know, that's you. It's coming from these series of flyers that was put out by the administration, and it was taken as if it's all wise, right and exact, but they're really not. There's some information that is accurate, but there's a lot of exaggerations and spins put on things because it was originally supposed to go through a PR propaganda gossip type column to saturate the public. All right, and I'm saying this because this will give context to why you see a lot of things being repeated and it just be flat out wrong, and some of it, having some accuracy or some accurate facts within it, and it's mixed. All right, so and a lot of people don't know that, so I wanted to give that context. And Unc, I had muted your mic though, so I got to unmute.
Okay, all right, man. That's very, very good information right there. Nobody ever heard that. Now we know a lot of times in these cases, dealing with molestation and children and things like that and rape, certain tests are done. Was any test done on Malachi York for venereal diseases and things of that nature that you know of? Was that a hard question?
No, go ahead. I think his mic is muted.
I'm sorry, you asking me or Chuck? I mean, yeah.
You and Chuck. Chuck.
Go ahead, Wudjau. You can pull on that. Go ahead, Wudjau.
All right. I'm sorry. Ask the question again.
I said, in a lot of molestation cases, they usually test the children for venereal diseases and the defendant, victims and the defendant. Was any such test ever taken?
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, let's talk about that. What test was taken, and how can we prove and verify that?
All right, like you said, in rape cases and molestation cases, they especially rape cases within a 72-hour period, they try to get specimens and swabs of people who are victims of rape or molestation and so on and so forth. But in this particular case, the allegations against Dr. York spanned several years, from 1988 up until the year 2002. So you're dealing with a long period of time. So the whole 72-hour, rape kit, they call it a rape kit, the rape kit or molestation kit that people normally do after somebody reports, an incident of rape and stuff, that doesn't apply. So different modes of different tests were done. But anyway, the tests were done for sexually transmitted diseases, and it was done on the those who were listed as victims, as well as on Dr. York himself. And Dr. York's blood was taken and it was examined, and this, matter of fact, see, this ties into what I said before as far as one of the flyers. One of the flyers that the administration had produced was, does Dr. York...
The medical records lie.
Yeah, do medical records lie? That was the title of the flyer. And the administration went on to say that Dr. York has no STDs. Some of the listed people listed as victims. They do, and therefore because they do and Dr. York doesn't, then that basically says that he's innocent or exonerates him. That was the idea behind the flyer. But what the flyer omits is that they speak about herpes simplex 1, which Dr. York tested negative for. And so the focus was on herpes simplex 1 and chlamydia and gonorrhea and things like that, which he tested negative for. But it failed to mention herpes simplex 2, which is the sexually prone transmission of the herpes series. And Dr. York tested positive for herpes 2. And in fact, it was because he tested positive for herpes 2 that completely changed the color of the entire case, because his medical testing that I'm speaking about, it was done in the late summer of 2002, and when those results came back and it was exchanged between the prosecution side and the defense side through discovery, because each side has to give up what's called discovery. It was when the defense received these medical reports and these tests, the results of these tests, that's when Dr. York's attorneys at the time, who was Edward Garland and Samuel Loeb's firm, that's when they had to change their strategy, and this was the beginning of the talks about Dr. York and suggesting that he may be better off going towards entering a plea. It was because of these tests that these attorneys started to kind of rearrange the strategy and the fight, and was like saying that, hey, we're gonna have to start looking at the option of pleading. And a lot of Nuwaupians don't know that, because nothing in that the administration released speaks to this subject. So to answer your question, yes, the tests were done, and yes, that Dr. York results on some of them were negative, and then on some of them were, in this particular one, herpes 2, it was a positive result. And because of some of the listed victims that were listed in the case also had herpes 2, then to a jury, a 12-panel jury, with all these accusations and all this, it wasn't looking good.
Okay, hold on.
And you can see it. We put it on the Nuwaupianism.com website, where anyone who wants to actually see them, they're there, and the dialogue between the attorneys and the judge.
Now, okay, let me see that. So where can people access these documents? On your website? Suppose, Chuck, I don't trust you or Wudjau. Where can we access these documents? How were you able to access them, and how can we access these documents? Because you just might be making it up.
All right.
You want to get an old man a fair shake. You know what I'm saying? How can we access these documents?
All right, I'll go first, real quick. And a lot of the documents that Nuwaupians have to this very day came by way of my efforts of sharing those documents, but people can get them directly from the court. There's actually an electronic federal court filing system called Pacer, and it's a website. You can go to pacer.com. I believe it's pacer.com.
Yeah.
You can go there and you can register for free, and you can access all of the federal court, all of the U.S. district courts, and access to all of the public records. You could download the PDFs. All you have to do is pay per page. I don't know the amount per page, but all you do, however many pages the document is that you're interested in, you purchase it based on the number of pages. Let's say it's 50 cents per page or $1 per page. And so all of the court documents are public, not those that are under seal, but everything that's public, everything that you could walk into a court of clerk's office and get online. You don't have to leave the comfort of your own home. So these particular documents are available to everyone. Now, in terms of his medical report, his medical filing, those were under seal at first. So this is why nobody bore witness to them or even knew about them, because they were under seal. But what happened is the Nuwaupians themselves, those who were privileged to have these documents, the Nuwaupians themselves filed these documents in an attempt to sue the federal court in the prison system in Colorado in order to try to get York transferred. So they had entered in as part of their arguments and exhibits, they entered in these sealed documents into their records. So at that point is when it all blew up, and a lot of Nuwaupians became aware of it, and non-Nuwaupians became aware of all of this. And I got hit with a lot of questions about it, because this is something that was under seal. You know, it wasn't a matter of public record, but it became public by the efforts of Nuwaupians themselves. So the Nuwaupians know about these records because they entered it in as an argument to try to help Dr. York.
Yeah.
But to answer your question in short, Pacer, people can go to the court. People can go to the courthouse themselves. It's in Macon, Georgia. Macon, Georgia. If you live in Georgia or live near Macon, you can go in there and just pay for any, pull up the docket and just pay for whatever documents you want.
I'm looking at it right here. It says, was this a release form or something right here?
Which one is that? What's that?
It says right here, Dr. It look like a release form or something like that. Okay, hold on, let me see.
Yeah, that's what was subpoenaed from the prosecution.
Okay, and the Federal Bureau. This is the investigation. Let me see.
Those are those medical documents.
Oh man.
Okay, but see, you have to understand that that in a court proceeding that was called chain of custody. So everything has to be accounted for and handled properly with no foul play whatsoever. So what the prosecution did, they petitioned the court to have Dr. York's blood examined for STDs and so on and so forth, just like they did with the listed victims and the children that was taken from the land that was underage at the time, and removed them from their households and so on and so forth. It was 5 altogether.
Well,
yeah, it's kind of rough, huh?
Kind of rough. I'm looking at it for the first time. But me personally, I didn't even need to look at the records. I had already recognized in my mind that, crime against the babies is a crime against goddamn African humanity at the end of the day. I didn't even need that. You know what I mean? So I've always, go back over my thing, I've always denounced Malachi York, for those crimes against those babies, no matter what they say. All right, so just be mad at me for telling the goddamn truth. All right?
Let me
just right in front of your face. All right? Find another damn teaching, another doctrine, right? You know what I'm saying? And this is not to slander anybody, because the supporting documentation is there. All right? And, we find a lot of this cult-like behavior in a lot of people. Misinforming people, got people going out there getting their brains blown out. You feel me? And people aren't being responsible. I talk about it all the time. If you're going to teach, you know what I'm saying, be responsible with your goddamn shit, man. But people use that shit for personal gain all the way out. I mean, it's terrible, Chuck. It's terrible, Wudjau.
Hey, let me
just, go ahead, brother.
Now, now the thing is, I'm, we all ex-Nuwaupians. I mean, I'm gonna speak for myself. I'm ex-Nuwaupian. I mean,
speak for yourself. Speaking for me too. Shit. You don't leave me out there.
No. And what I'm saying is that I've been there, done that. And one of the things that York stressed, and this is one of the spins on retroactively justifying why Islam, why Christianity, why Hebrew Israelite, why the Holy Tabernacle Ministry. This is the spin that's placed on why the doctrine changes so much, is because one of the things that York says and have said is that in order to know the doctrine, you have to live it. You have to become it. You have to live by
submerged in that.
Yeah, you have to submerge yourself into it and so on and so forth. So if that's good enough for Dr. York in terms of those doctrines, then by the same token, I was an ex-Nuwaupian, so I was submerged in the whole Nuwaupu thing, even prior to Nuwaupu, the Holy Tabernacle Ministry, all of that stuff. So, and even with all these things, and I say that to say is that you know, Nuwaupians will have a spin for every single thing. And even with what we're saying right now, this is the thing. The STD results in and of themselves does not prove guilt, because it could just so happen that York has herpes too, and one of the listed victims has herpes too. It doesn't mean that he had any kind of contact with them. But what happens is people got to understand how things are argued in court, and the impression that a jury will have, and so on and so forth. And then you have circumstantial evidence. You got all kinds of different evidence. You got testimony is considered evidence, circumstantial evidence. You got a whole laundry list of different varieties of evidence that's allowed in the courtroom that could persuade a jury to go one way or the other, and it just wasn't looking good, you know, for that. So I just want to put that out there, and then the fact that Nuwaupians will feel that everything that's being said, even right now, the stuff I've said, they'll look at that as an attack on Dr. York, and that's sad, because what's happened is there's so much misinformation out there that anybody that tries to deal with the accuracy of information is always going to be looked at as the devil, an enemy, somebody hating on Dr. York. They even go and say that you're an agent. You must be paid by the CIA, FBI, and all this and that. So they're all these, and I know Chuck is catching it, because Chuck is living in beautiful Hawaii. So I done seen people say that, hey, Chuck is over there chilling in Hawaii. The FBI is paying for his rent. And,
yeah, they gave me $61 million.
Damn. Hey, Chuck, man, hand some of that cash over, man. We need to shoot a documentary, man. Cut that shit out, Chuck. Can't believe you over there in Hawaii, man. Look at that $100,000 chair you in, man.
Yeah, boy. Yeah.
Yeah, so
I'm a Chippendale.
Yeah, so
you know it.
So these things are expected. So like me, you know, I you know, for years, even after I left the organization and everything, for years, for up to about 3 years after I left, I was still educating people on the case, because there's a lot of people that I mean, I knew a lot of people. I still know them. I mean, I don't know them, but I'm still associated with a whole lot of people. I've met some beautiful people, and to this very day, I would still think them as beautiful people. So if, you know, that's their choice to stick with the doctrine, stick with whatever, I was still offering myself and my services to help educate them, so that they can at least have some semblance of a fight. And then I eventually stopped, because the spins just started coming out of control with you know, the spins that they'll place on different things. So I just wanted to say, because I'm looking in the chat, I see people say, you know, y'all hating on Dr. York, or this is a you know, hate Dr. York thing or whatever, and it's
not no damn hate Dr. York thing, man. Go ahead with that. That shit crazy.
Right.
It's Dr. York.
It's not about, it's not about that at all.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the consistent things that I get. You know, and I've made this point clear. When this stuff, listen, I didn't even touch the case. When I first started asking questions on the York issue, it was centered on doctrine exclusively. Okay, I did it on Facebook. A sister told me, why don't you go join this group, join that group. I wasn't hating him. I never had any reason to hate him, for me personally, because he hadn't done anything to me, and I hadn't studied the case. I hadn't studied. Matter of fact, I wanted to have nothing to do with it, because in my mind at the time, prior to 2011, I wanted to believe that he, you know, wasn't guilty of anything. You know, so when I started asking questions, I went to some of the old teachers that I used to, you know, build with. And I would put out questions, and you know, and they would give me the runaround. I knew all the game, because I used to teach it, and I knew it wasn't happening there. So I would go online and start asking other people, but nobody was just giving me these answers where you had any kind of credible sources of reference. And then I started becoming. They started parading these labels of me being a hater, and I hate Dr. York, and I'm a disgruntled ex-Nuwaupian, and all this other stuff. I never had that. I still don't hate the man. You know, I mean, he may hate me now, but then again, he may not. I don't know. But he's familiar with the website, I'm certain. But it's never been an issue about hating him or revenge for anything. It was all about accuracy of information. Here's a counter to what's being put out there to people. Because there was no counterpoint. There were people who made statements about this and that, but there was no concerted effort to dissect what York taught, past and present, and then present it to the people to show the inconsistencies to it, the errors, the outright lies. So I remember there was a talk about there should be a 360 question to ask Nuwaupians. Never came out.
Yeah, well,
Never came out. So me and the brother got together, and he was like, why don't you do it? And I'm like, I wasn't trying to. Anytime I write a book, I'm like, I just wanted to help people by what I experienced being within that organization, and the things that I knew from being with York. And this is my evidence to support everything that I'm saying, and you can take it from there. And then that's where they somehow took that to be hate, or what's the word they like to use? Slander. Because everything that I'm using, I try to make certain that I have a reference where they can see it, where they can access it. I don't want to get into the hearsay thing, because it'll be just like what York used to do. It's always hearsay. So it was never a hate thing. It's never, and it still to this day isn't. Even with his relatives, it's simple. It's children. I don't go after them. I don't attack them. I don't do anything. Everything is centered on the questions to Nuwaupians, not Dr. York. Because if people say, why didn't you ask these questions when he was out? My thing was, why would I have to ask him these questions? Because I was on his side. I was his man. I was one of his main teachers. I was pushing this stuff out there, so I wasn't asking them in doubt. I was asking questions. So if they ask me this, what do I say? Because he didn't give me any, well, you go here and this is where you go, unless it may be something religious. So I leave his children out of this thing, unless those who step out, want to go there, like the other guy, which he's remained silent ever since. But I try to stay away from all of that. And yeah, with the Nuwaupian Debate Forum, which is a Facebook group where we put up the questions, and if Nuwaupians feel they want to challenge what's been written on the website, here's your chance. And so they said, why don't you come up to Brooklyn and do this and do that, and you can ask all the questions you want. That was part of York's strategy, which was to have this closed-in, gated type of format where you can ask all kinds of crazy questions, but there will be no accountability for them, because you're not out in the mainstream where you have everybody looking in. You can just say, well, when I remember there's a case when we all went down to Georgia, and York, a brother got up and asked York a question about Ankh, and he was saying that well, something about when Ankh went against Anu. How do you feel about Ankh at this point? So York goes on saying, even though Ankh is my spiritual father, I reject everything that Ankh stood for, because he opposed Anu. Okay, so this is what York is telling me. You can't pass this nonsense on to people in the mainstream. This is in his gate. This is in his little vacuum, where the people is just going back and forth with them. If you go outside of that and you say, well, wait a minute, tell me about this Ankh. Give me some evidence on this. How are you the son of Ankh? And on and on and on. So get back to the point. It was never been a hate thing with York. And my questions are always designed for Nuwaupians. I have a whole set of questions for York should he ever get released, which more than likely will never happen. So I probably would never have to even deal with that. So I just wanted to set that point out. I don't hate the man. I don't like what he did, of course. And I've been able to embrace those victims and witnesses, because when I was doing this stuff, they stayed away from me, because they thought that I was just like the rest of the Nuwaupians who wanted to align myself with them and then try to get some incriminating information or take pictures off of their Facebook page and then use it against them. It wasn't until others who saw the works of what I was trying to do that they started slowly coming on board, and then their family members started coming on. So now we're just like a little, I'm just like an honorary family member, because we've been able to, kind of come together, and they see what this thing is all about, and I'm in their corner helping them, not only just with the information, but also to clear their names, because the Nuwaupian Facts website, they just disparaged Nicole Lopez, what's the other sister? I can't remember the other sister's name. Pauline Rogers. They just attacked them, putting their pictures up, and they take a freeze frame, having their mouth open. They did all these things and made lies up against these people. You know, and the Nuwaupianism.com, in addition to the questions, is also clearing all that nonsense that these people have been saying in regards to the victims and the witnesses. And that's why I take great pride in this thing, because it's a living issue, because York is still on the scene in some regards, and the organization is still active in some regards. So with the website, we can attack something that they come out with instantly. So it's not the thing is where you write a book and then it's out there and then you got to come back and do a revised edition. You know.
And another thing, you know, one of the things that's always been asked of me, because people get wind that I used to deal with Dr. York's legal case, they'll just come and fast forward to the very end, and they want to know the answer to, do I think Dr. York is guilty? Or they just ask me, so did he do it? Was he guilty? And to this very day, I have never, ever answered that question. And I tell people full stop at the beginning of any kind of questioning or interview. If somebody wanted to interview me back in the day or whatever, I would tell them that's the only question that I don't answer, and here's why. And it's very simple, because what happens is, if somebody asks me that and I did give them an answer, then they're going to rely on my answer and not do the homework themselves. So what I do is, instead of answering the question at all, I simply say, no, ask me a series of questions that allow me to supply you with information and where to go to get information. You can make your own mind up, just like as if you're a jury. And this is what everybody needs to do. Become a juror in this situation. If you care, if you want to look into it and care, then become as one of the jurors and look at all of the information as if you were sitting at the trial and you were taking in all the testimony, all of the evidence that's entered at exhibits, and so on and so forth, see the arguments by both sides, and then you play the role of a juror and you come up with whatever you come up with. Don't ask me what I think. This is what I tell everybody. And I reiterate this to this very day, that people tend to want to fast forward and don't do the work. And it's because of that mentality that people get very opinionated one way or the other. And it's a question I'm going to ask y'all. You, Chuck, and Let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
Think about it. Can you be a Nuwaupian and think that Dr. York is guilty?
Yes.
Say it again. Can what?
Can you believe all of the accusations and think that Dr. York did all the things that they say he did and that he is guilty? Can you believe that and accept that and still be a diehard, fully functional Nuwaupian?
I say no.
Okay.
Because you had to get the hell away from that shit at that point. You know, like, you don't need him to get that information. Like, I mean, just character issues. The whole baby thing, the whole children, the whole disrespect to the women, I mean, it's just too much, man. You gotta let that go. As a man in the African American community, you had to let that shit go.
Okay, so let me.
Oh,
go ahead, Chuck. I'm sorry.
All right. Okay, here's my position on it. Now, I personally don't advocate the Nuwaupian doctrine, but I'm saying in terms of how York would. Okay, if you strip York from the doctrine itself, and you just are left with what being a Nuwaupian and what Nuwaupu is supposed to be, okay, they will teach you that Nuwaupu is the science of sound right reasoning, and Nuwaupians are the sons and daughters of sound right reasoning. So if anyone is trying to impose upon you their religious beliefs, they are first to prove what it is that they're teaching. Okay, if you maintain just that goes outside of Dr. York, because I'm not a Nuwaupian, but if I were to use the principles of what you would classify as Nuwaupu, I can apply it to York's teachings.
Okay. Let me ask you a different.
You're crazy.
Hey, that's that little Nuwaupian story. He did that, right? No, but okay. So Chuck, let me ask you a different way then, because this,
Yeah.
I guess this is what I really meant. I guess I
Yeah.
worded better.
Okay.
So
I got it. Chuck just hit you with that.
yeah, in other words, will other Nuwaupians allow you to be a full-fledged Nuwaupian if you believe that Dr. York was actually absolutely guilty of all those things? Would you be accepted among the Nuwaupians, and would you be comfortable being among the Nuwaupians, and so on and so forth?
No. No.
Okay, so now the reason why I raised that question is to make a point, is that by default, everyone claiming to be a Nuwaupian to this very day is automatically by default is going to have the stance that Dr. York is completely innocent, because in order to be one among them, that has to be your stance. So this is the uphill cognitive dissonance that people are having when it comes to information about his legal stuff. You know, maybe the doctrine may be a little different thing, but when it comes down to the legal stuff, this is what I was always confronted with when I was, still trying to educate people on the legal information, is that I have to break down this big wall of the fact that they're coming knowing nothing from nothing, and yet they're trying to sit on a jury pool, and they will be automatically be biased. So if this was a legal situation, they would be dismissed from jury selection based on having preconceived biasness and so on and so forth. They're not looking at it objectively, which Chuck, is what the doctrine tells you to do. It says Nuwaupu is the science of sound, right reasoning, and they break it down further that you have to have right knowledge, right wisdom, and right understanding, which is acquired through experience, evidence, and reason. So if you actually did use those things, then you wouldn't come to the table with the preconceived bias one way or the other. You would examine the evidence as is. So Nuwaupians themselves are not really Nuwaupians. In order to be a true Nuwaupian, you have to be an ex-Nuwaupian or a non-Nuwaupian, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yep. Damn right. That's why I say it all the time.
That's a brilliant point. Let me ask you a question. I see there's some people in the boxes. Is there? Do they have like some questions or something?
I think they ain't really got no questions like that. We just got a couple. We got a couple Christian fools in here ready to get beat all the way down to the ground at any given moment. You feel me? Right. But I think this is very, very educational right here.
Yeah. I'm hoping that people walk away with a better sense of, at least from my perspective, of what Nuwaupianism.com is designed to do. You see?
Okay. Go ahead. Ask that question, brother. Black, ask that question.
All right, what's going on? What's going on, Samuel? What's going on?
How you doing? I see with that Magi shirt on, man. That's kind of tight there, bro.
Oh yeah.
You always represent. Go ahead, bro.
Of course. So, Chuck, I heard you earlier say that when you was teaching that you used to, follow the ways of York and stuff like that. So you mean to tell me that you couldn't think your bed black, how he was saying you could do? You had to really diet?
Oh yeah, what had happened was, see, a lot of us, because the whole thing was that the way the York put it out was that you try to channel the spirit or the being that resided within him, right? Yeah, I know, but you got to understand that in that cult mindset, that's what you're operating on. And I was one of those people since I was around him. I wanted to be like him in terms of his teaching abilities and being able to get people to listen and understand what he was teaching. So yeah, I had bleached the beard, because I put a post on Nuwaupianism.com and said it's a video also where did York lie about dyeing his beard, something to that effect.
Oh yeah. I'm familiar with that.
And you can see where he'll come out one time of the day is black, and then it's like a faded color, almost like white. And then he says in the video that my beard, I don't dye my beard. My beard is white because I want it white. If I want it black, I'll think it black. It'll be black. That's how it is. That was that's as simple. That's as crazy as it was. And you know, when you're under that, see, this is the thing. The reason that I feel good about being able to expose this stuff is because I was there. All those Nuwaupians that are fighting with this cognitive dissonance going on in their minds, not being able to process it, I was there. I know how the mindset works.
Yeah.
When you're in a cult, you got to be able, in order, once you come out of it, then you're able to talk and reach those people who are willing to listen on how you're messed up in the head from what this guy has done. And believe me, I was in it deep.
Yeah.
Okay, and I was under the, I ain't gonna say spell, but I was under this guy's
goddamn spell.
You know, and that was one of them, and that was one of them, which was the whole beard thing, you know. So yeah, that's what I did. I actually went out and bleached the beard to try to look like York, and not just me. There was other brothers. Matter of fact, some of the security guys. It was one brother, a heavyset fellow, used to be upstate. He did the same thing when York would come out when he was rocking the whole Shriners thing. He would bleach the beard and mustache, and people would say, "Oh, that's York right there. Oh, that's right there." And York even say, "See, you don't know where I am. I'm all over."
Yeah. To kind of, I got introduced to York. Like, I don't know, it was interesting, but I know what you mean, because the way he had a way of putting things, it was like he was sucked in.
Yeah.
It sounded so good. It was like, damn, yo, this man is the truth. This, that, and the third. But then when you start doing some more studying, like I used to really look up, you know what I'm saying, videos on YouTube. Oh, Dr. Yo. Then I came across Brother Ankh, and it said Brother Ankh asked a real Nuwaupian some questions, and I was like, damn, this Ankh dude is deep. Then I got introduced to Ankh, and then Ankh, he was talking about how he was a Nuwaupian. You know what I'm saying? Because I went through a level of things, you know what I mean? And it was like from York. Then I heard Polite. And I'm glad Polite kind of stepped the game up, because he was teaching like some weird stuff in the beginning, but he stepped up his scholarship for real. And I got introduced to Ankh, and then I was like more level with books, being more solid on the ground. You gotta have sources, information to back up what you say, and things of that matter. And when I was listening to York, it was just like, damn, it sounds so good. And you regurgitate it, and then when somebody hits you with real information, it's like you like, damn. Hold on. Let me go back to some more York stuff.
When we would listen, when we had the Ansar community set up, the brothers that I knew who were teachers, Mdw-nTr, Khalil, all these people, these guys would have, well, at that time back in '89, they would have speakers in the brothers' bait. And they would play York would be lecturing all night long. So you're not only listening to it during the daytime, you're listening to it in your subconscious. You're in sleep, still listening, and you're learning. And that's how I was able to really embrace all this stuff and know so much about the doctrine, because that's what I would do. I was following their lead. So one thing, like I was saying earlier, York said that you don't even have to be right. You just have to sound like you know what you're saying. Which is deception, but the way that he would do it, and he would listen to people who, and I remember him telling me with some of the radio shows, he would say, if you listen to the brother talking, he doesn't sound confident in what he's teaching, because when he's talking, his voice goes down, and he sounds timid because he's not sure, you know. And all these little psychology games he was playing, I started adapting to it, and then that's how when you're debating people, you know how to run around them and hit them in these points, you know. Yeah, I mean, it's disingenuous, but that was York. That was how he taught us, and now it's just applying it to his cult members.
Yeah,
I tell you what else is a cult that everybody acting like that. Goddamn Christianity is a damn cult. It's accepted damn cult. Right? So I see you Christians out there. Anytime you want to get it, you can definitely get it. Come on, Albert, look your thing out, man. You're in line, bro.
Hey, but look.
Any Christian want to get it, y'all can get it. Because y'all are the biggest goddamn cult. All right? You went in and raped Africa. All right? So anybody want to play a little Jesus Christ game, boy, check this ex-Nuwaupian, dig in that ass. Trust me. I dig in all that. Y'all done with that. That's easy work.
Hey, I just want to comment on something that was said earlier. Chuck.
No mercy to the Christians.
Albert.
He got to mute his mic.
Come on, Albert. What is he doing?
He might have something. He might have a question.
You got a question, Albert? If you drive, you got a question, Albert?
Yeah, I'm not no Christian.
I know you got a question.
No, I'm just listening.
All right, well, mute your mic out. We can hear you like you're at the Indianapolis 500.
Oh, okay, okay.
All
I'm
right.
just listening.
All right, brother.
All right.
All right. Yeah, you little white boy Christian. I'll beat the brakes off a white boy Christian. Yeah. Damn cult. All day.
Hey, but I was gonna say something about when I think Chuck mentioned it earlier, when Nuwaupians go through quote unquote schools of thought.
Yeah.
And then they reverse back or whatever the case is. But in one instance, in 1990, early 1990, 91 is when the whole onset of Nuwaupu came about, and it's supposed to be science, and it was to leave all of the three religions alone, and so on and so forth. But at some point, right before Dr. York was arrested, he fully embraced Christianity again.
Exactly.
To the point where those of us that were living on the land, even when we were working, we had what's called work sites and everything. We had to tote around Bibles. We had to actually carry around Bibles or carry it to our work site or whatever the case is. Not only that, I don't know if you all remember. Anybody who's visited the land will remember the Black Pyramid, and the Black Pyramid used to play this sound that we used to play 24/7, and we used to call it the Om chant. And it was a loop that just said Om, 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 Om.
I remember that.
Right. And also at the train, we had what we call a train stop. The train stop was basically where you first come in on the land, and you see these little pillars. We used to call it the train stop, and we had speakers right there. And the same thing used to play out those speakers. Well, at the time that Dr. York fully embraced Christianity again, he had me change the loop, the Om loop, to a loop that said, "Thank you, Jesus, thank you."
Yeah, I remember that, yo. Crazy.
Now, that's the thing. The Nuwaupians, guys, if you see that's commenting and talking about this stuff now, they don't know about that. They're not up on that kind of stuff.
They don't. And see, that's the thing. Earlier you asked, what qualifies, me or Chuck or anybody to say whatever we're saying. People who are there, who were there and did whatever, they're the most qualified. And even so, like, and it works in reverse, because even with the legal stuff, I was there for everything. And the Nuwaupians will say on one hand that, hey, how do you know this and how do you know that? Were you there? And then when people step up who were there, then it's a new spin put on. Well, okay, so you were there. You must have been an agent all along, and this and that. So the arguments change by whatever you say. But anyway, the whole thing about the Christian thing is that at the time, York fully embraced it, and in fact, he explained inside the temple. He used to give classes inside the temple, and people used to come up on a weekly basis and go inside the temple and teach and listen to the class. Well, during one of his classes, he explained that he had a near-death experience, and that we had a resident doctor living on the land, and he said that he had a near-death experience, and the doctor that lived with us on the land had to see him and basically revive him. And it was during this experience that Isa or Jesus, the Messiah, came to visit Dr. York and told him, he had this conversation with Jesus and that Jesus is real. So that began the whole thing, is Jesus is real, and that the whole thing he was teaching with right knowledge and all that stuff was wrong, and that Jesus is real. So then Dr. York started to push this. So in his temple class, he's explaining all this stuff, and he taught it in such a way that. And I'm telling y'all I'm being straight up and down. I was sitting in the front, and I could see everybody, because I'm sitting on stage with Dr. York next to the audio equipment, and I'm looking at everybody's faces. And as he's teaching, then all of a sudden I'm seeing Nuwaupians stand up and start giving testimonies, like how you do in church, and how they saw the Spirit, the Holy Ghost, and how it descended upon them. And I was like, oh my goodness, are you serious?
Yeah.
I mean, to the point where at a different class, maybe a couple classes after that, people started getting up crying and saying how they were touched by the Spirit and it changed their life and this and that. So this is the level of mental gullibility that we have as a people, you know, and those particular people would just go whichever way the wind blow. You know, four weeks prior to that, it was Jesus didn't exist. Matter of fact, I remember Dr. York pointing to the sun. He was in the class. He pointed to the sun. He said, "There go Jesus right there." And everybody looked back, and everybody was like, "Where?" And he was like, "The sun, right there." He said, "Jesus is the actual S-U-N sun, and Jesus never existed." Blah blah. He would go through that whole thing, and then, you know, a month or two later, Jesus is real. So these are the kind of things that people, you know, got to deal with when dealing with the doctrine.
Yeah, because it's inconsistent. Okay, right during that same time, this is in May of 2002. They released the CD, You Want to Question Me and I Taught You, and York says, you don't decide to get saved. Dr. Malachi York didn't decide to become a Christian or to get saved. I was quite content in Egyptology. I knew what I was talking about, but when God chooses you, I don't care where you are, I don't care what you're doing. If God chooses you, something hits you like bam, then you hear yourself saying, Jesus is real.
Yeah.
And if you understand what I'm saying, and the person standing next to you is thinking this is some kind of a joke, you better get away from them. I'm talking
that
about
was
the
on
power.
the land.
This is what he's saying. This is on
the
audio.
Land.
Keep in mind. This is after the whole God series. This is after the Holy Tablets. This is after the Black Book. This is after the ancient Egyptian order.
Yep.
Now check this out. So this is the
Egyptian Church of Caress, right? When he went into that, remember?
Yeah.
That's when I was thinking it's time for me to get out of there. He definitely wasn't talking to me.
Hey, man, you were one of those people I'm talking about that was in the crowd. You stood up and booed.
Nah, son. Nah, he couldn't get me on that one. I was definitely on something else.
But hey, check this out. This is the spin. This is after all of that. This is the spin that was placed on that to justify all of that action. He said, and matter of fact, this is in a visitation. He said to go back and tell the people on the land at the meetings that the reason why he did that was to drop people off, because he said he realized that there was a lot of Christians among us, the quote unquote us, and that in order to get rid of them, he had to drop them off where he found them. So he gave an analogy of, okay, I had to back the bus up so I can park it and open the door so people could get off, and then we could lighten our load to proceed and move forward. So that was the spin that was placed on there the entire time. Now that spin sounds good, and the Nuwaupians may repeat that spin, and I don't think anything of it. But now look at the bigger picture. Look at the integrity or the credibility of someone that will, at the time he was saying Jesus is real, have people wholeheartedly believe in it, even those people living on the land, and then go up and switch up and say something like that afterwards. That speaks to somebody's integrity and credibility, where there is no integrity and credibility for someone that actually does that. So although it sounds good, that's just not something that people need to applaud and do.
So I'm thinking he knew he was getting locked up, though. That's when he started doing all that changes. Right after that, he got locked up. I'm thinking he knew something was going down. Remember, he was kind of saying that. Remember that?
He was aware of that because even when I was in D.C., some of the victims had come by the store and they were talking about, oh yeah, we're going to get him. He's going to get his. Even some of the emails that's posted on the website that they sent talking about York and molesting this person, that person, and I post this stuff because then people need to see this stuff. So they were roaming around Georgia and wherever they went, New York, D.C., talking about, he's about to get his, and he was keenly aware of it. Yes, he knew about it. He knew his time was coming.
Well, not only that, from the perspective of being there, there were people people have to understand that Dr. York has a lot of children, and that the mothers of the children, some of the people that are involved with the case are either his ex-wife, ex-mate, or mothers of some of the children. And so there was a like a love-hate relationship, so to speak, with these people where they would come, they were friends with a lot of people, because you got to remember, a lot of these people grew up in the doctrine from Ansar days all the way up until, you know, the time of his arrest and everything like that. So this is all they know. So everybody, every friend that they had was also a member of the organization. So even if they left, which they did, all their friends were still involved and everything like that. So they would stay in contact. So the context of him knowing came by way of people who left and were accusing him of these things, still in contact with the sisters and whoever else on the land, and word got back that way. And then people even came up on the land and told him, you know, ahead of time. Because remember, one of the people that involved with the case went to the law enforcement a whole year prior to York's arrest. So it was known for a whole year. And so a lot of information was coming about down the pipeline through that. So by the time Dr. York is having these classes and he's mentioning that, you know, that they're going to try to come and take the land, or if they should come, this, that, and the other, Nuwaupians look at it as Dr. York being prophetic, you know, like you know, some being incarnated in him and gave him foresight. No, it was the fact that information was continually coming down the pipeline from people who were still in contact with the next person and so on and so forth, that this, you know, this stuff is brewing up. So, you know, it was nothing mystical about it whatsoever, you know, not at all. And in fact, Dr. York said he knew they were coming because he was told. He just didn't know how. He didn't know how. He didn't know that he was going to be arrested when he went into Millersville and went shopping. And, you know, he didn't know any details, but he knew they were coming because he was told. He was told they were coming. I mean, not the day of, I'm saying, so I don't want to make it seem like, you know, he was told the time and the moment, but, you know, he was told that you know, that this stuff is brewing up and so on and so forth, you know.
He basically brainwashed people to worship him. So anything he said was just like, oh my God, he's a prophet, he's this, he's... And
well, see, that's another part of the inconsistencies, because you remember there was a book called I Don't Claim to Be. It was an Ansar publication where he says, I didn't claim to be a prophet, and he gives you multiple places where he says that I'm not a prophet. He talked about it in Bilal Phillips' rebuttal book. He mentioned in another book, I'm not a prophet. You know, on the Is God the Devil? I'm sorry, Is the Devil a Man? He talks about, I'm not a prophet. I see things happen. If it doesn't happen, I'm not a prophet. Then, in the Millennium book, he gives you page after page of events that took place or are going to take place, that he's saying that he prophesied it.
Yeah.
This is another prophecy come true. So you can't have it both ways. This is that right there. Again, it shows the inconsistency.
But this...
It shows... Go ahead.
Oh, no, yeah, but that's... Yeah, like you just said, he wanted to have it both ways, man. Like, if it don't happen, I already told you I wasn't a prophet. If it do happen, see, I told you, I'm the master teacher. Like, he was a good con man. Like that dude.
He was a con man.
He was a con game.
Hey Chuck, I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
I got a question for you real quick.
Yeah.
Now, you know, in tonight's hangout, you know, the Nuwaupians are not represented here, right? We're ex-Nuwaupians, and you know, it could come off real easy, like, you know, we're hating on the organization, hating on York, and whatever the case is. So my question to you is, you know, do you plan, and I know you have the website, but do you plan on doing anything to allow Nuwaupians to question you directly, or to actually have a voice and go, you know, open it up for them to question you and you them and so on and so forth? You know, do you plan on doing that? Because you know, it has to, you know, and you know, to keep it balanced and keep it fair, because, you know, like I said, this can be interpreted as, oh, this is lopsided, all they're doing is just, you know, whatever. We just got a blog talk page set up, so it's going to become a matter of time and convenience on when I'm going to be able to set a date for when a show will be live, and I'll be happy to any Nuwaupian that may be watching or listening, you can come on board and then we can have a bill. I'm not going to cut you. Yeah, we definitely do it.
We'll get it. We'll do it on there, and we'll do it on the Amon-Ra Squad platform too.
Yeah, see, my thing, and let me make this point clear. it's not when I'm putting these questions to the Nuwaupians, I'm doing it in multiple facets. I'm not. Well, first thing is I'm asking them questions that they should be able to answer, because York says there's nothing that a Nuwaupian cannot answer. All they have to do is research. That's in Right Knowledge. That's in the Right Knowledge book. He's saying that. I'm asking these questions, one, for the answers for the people to see, wherever format they want to use it in. Two, how astute are you in the teachings of York? Because when Mdw-nTr used to teach, he always would go through this book, that book. He would go page to page, book to book.
Yeah.
He didn't have any evidence outside of the book.
Yeah,
but
he was right.
he would use the books very well. He was very effective in that. He can go and take you apart within his doctrine. And he used to always say, you got to keep them within the book. Once you go outside of the book, you're on your own.
Bum was good at that too, though. Bum was real good at doing that.
Bum was good with that, and that's how York taught. He taught us that way. So with the website, I'm asking these questions, and I'm getting them also. If it reaches them, fine. There have been several Nuwaupians that I've talked to who sent me emails and saying, "Man, I'm glad you pointed out. I didn't realize this. People are waking up to it, and that's the beauty of it. I could have charged money on the website. Charge this if you want to find out what's on it. But because I didn't want it to look like some kind of thing where it's a money scheme like York would do. It's for everybody. It's my money coming out of my pocket to keep that thing running. When they start attacking that site with viruses and all that, man, that stuff costs money to get these things detected and removed. And somebody's donating anything to me. I don't have $61 million that they
You ain't got that $61 million? Man, come on, Chuck, man, you really got that $61 million.
Feds didn't give me any money. So the other areas is, for people who may not even be familiar with it, this is like a preventive medicine for should they come in contact with the whole Nuwaupian flamboyancy. Because whenever you see these brothers talking on the street, whenever they go to these little venues, you always see how it's always this high energy. You know what I'm saying? And you're going like this. And because you're moving at such a rapid rate, and it's bewildering the person who's listening. And if you stop and say, wait a minute, let me ask you a question, slow down. And I'm hoping that people will go to the site and then they can ask a question from one of the articles where you have evidence to back up what you're saying, and it eliminates a lot of the wiggle room that the Nuwaupians are trying to slide out of.
I'm just trying to figure out how is who the hell is keeping the Nuwaupians nowadays going? Because they dumb as rocks. They wasn't as sharp as we was.
Who he got?
Well, maybe the years of studying and understanding of references and resources has raised our game to the point where they sound dumb as hell, and maybe we always sounded dumb as hell when we was doing that shit.
Probably did. Probably did.
Hey, let me check this out. Where you at? Thank you, Jesus. Where you at? You on the question?
Hey, how's it going, man? Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I know you're definitely not a Christian, and it's something you are against, but I do appreciate the invite. Yeah, I'm just was watching the show, man. Even though I dogmatically disagree with you, I hate some of the things that you teach in regards to Christianity. I am a huge fan of yours, Ankh, and I think you're a likely character. But all right, some of my questions would be just to be clear, because I don't want to misrepresent you. You say you're a black atheist. Basically, you believe in no God, right, whatsoever.
Real black atheist.
Okay, the real black atheist. Okay. So, because I know there's certain people within the black conscious community that hold to, wouldn't say the word God, but more or less like a higher power, like an impersonal energy. So I was just wondering if that's the view that you hold to as well.
I hold to the view that everything is natural. I don't deal with the supernatural because we natural people. I keep it right there, real simple.
That's okay. And you guys hold to evolution, right? Natural, evolutionary naturalism.
I can't speak for everybody. I'm basically saying that it's natural forces on Earth. You know what I'm saying? Natural cosmic forces that reside on Earth that transform living organisms through their environment. That's just so clear to me.
Right.
I don't know why nobody don't get that. You had to ask Chuck and them. I mean, that's how I see it.
Right.
You know?
Right. Because one of my questions was, you know, if because from my understanding, that which is impersonal cannot create that which is personal. So, one of the things that I wrestle with in my mind is, if we are brought here naturally, how can something impersonal, create creatures which are personal beings? So it makes me wonder if our source is really not just this impersonal natural force, but is actually a force or a being that is personal. So have you ever looked into that? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Impersonal, personal. That
Yeah.
sounds like human attributes or something like that. Hey, Chuck, that's your dog
Yeah,
barking in the
yeah.
background.
No, that's well, kind of. Hold on. It's a house across. It's a house across. Hold on. Let me mute myself. Go ahead.
Yeah, the impersonal thing, that's all humans throwing that on there, man. I mean, we all matter, man, at the end of the day, yo. All the elements you find on the element chart, man. So you can make it whatever you want to make it, man. So, that's just a kind of a doctrine, you kind of impersonal, personal. Nature is nature, man, at the end of the day, brother. So I don't know about being personal. I mean, hell, air is personal as hell. Take some air away. Yeah, I mean, shoot, man, so, hey, it don't get no more natural than air, man. That
Right. Right.
air is personal, right? Everybody needs air. It's air is everybody's best friend, the oxygen.
Mhm.
Trust me with that.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't get off into the religious things, man. I kind of honor my ancestors, man. I worship my ancestors.
Mhm.
You feel me? That's what I do. I get off into that.
Now,
The
and I
tree,
know.
water. I'd rather worship water, fruit, vegetables. Things that I can, are tangible for life. That's me. That's just me. Well, go ahead, bro.
So I guess I would say, and I do have a lot of respect, for people who hold that position. As I was saying, like, my father, he's Afro-Cuban, but he still practices religion from the people of those times, which is a Santeria. So he practices the same stuff
Respect.
too. So,
Respect.
in the end of the day, though I have my differences, I love my peoples, and I'm gonna stand for my peoples, regardless of what they believe.
Right.
So I guess for me, in my quest, in my journey, what makes me I'm not too sure if you're familiar with the argument. I believe it's called. Man, I'm trying to remember the name. I know how the argument goes. I'm trying to remember the name.
Hey, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just curious to ask you, since you say you're a Christian,
Sure, go ahead.
do you hold to the concept of consubstantiality?
Could you expound on that a bit?
Well, consubstantiality is, okay, let me ask you a different way. Do you believe that God is outside of God's own creation? Or do you believe that creation and God are one?
I believe God is transcendental. He exists outside of His creation. Though there are schools of thought within Christianity that some people believe, that He is a type of energy that exists, and that His energies are manifested into the world or not. But I believe He created out of nothing, ex nihilo. So no, I believe He's transient,
So
transcendental.
so God is God, and then whatever God creates or has created is separate from God. Just trying to get that clarity from you. Is that what you believe?
You can say that.
Okay. Well, okay. I appreciate that. The reason why I ask you that is because the question that you asked, it's gonna the concepts are gonna be far different than, and I don't know if you understand from a perspective of what Unc just said, and even a lot of African perspective when he said that everything is everything, everything is natural. That's
I believe
basically.
as above, so below type of concept, right?
I mean, that's one of the way people express it. Some people say everything is everything. Some people say as above, so below, as below, so above, and so on and so forth. But a lot of people, some people are familiar with the word consubstantiality, which means of the same substance. And there was an argument between this, the relationship between God the Father and God the Son Jesus, whether they were of the same substance or not. That's where the word comes from.
Right, the Council of Nicaea, I believe, they might have talked about that.
Yeah, but I was asking you that because if you believe that God is separate from creation and that's what you hold to, then you're gonna have a hard time understanding the African perspective of everything being everything and how God, well, when you ask for a higher power, even though they don't use the word God, how this infinite and eternal substance evolves. There's the word evolution, evolves and become the things in and as the world itself, and there's no separation. So based on your belief and stance, I don't think that you can probably conceptualize what the answer is that you even ask the question about. If you follow what I'm saying.
Well, I'm definitely open to learning, man, and you know, not to take over you guys' hangouts. You brothers can continue what you're talking about. Maybe from time to time I can chime in and ask some questions related to that, unless you guys want to continue talking about this and whatnot. But I'm open to learning.
I tell you what's funny, right? Does anything exist before God in the Christian doctrine? Yes or no?
No. Prior to creation, only God Himself existed.
So you agree that nothing comes before God, right?
Yes. Before
okay.
God.
Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry. Before creation, it was only God. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So none before God. Does anything come after God?
That which He created. Yes.
Okay. So nothing comes before God, but something comes before God, right? And God always was and always will be, correct?
Yes, I believe He's eternal, yes.
So then if that's the truth and that's the case in point, right? What did God use, watch this, to make God's creation if nothing comes before God? Because what you're saying is there's none but God. So then what did God use to create when He was creating?
That's a good question, and
I can help.
Sure, if you want, go ahead, shoot for it.
God can only use God. None but God. So anything that God make is just an expression, an aspect of, a little part of, a piece of crumb. It's like taking a piece of paper, right? And this piece of paper is God. And you take the pieces and you're looking at it, right? You're looking at all these pieces of paper, right? Guess what you got? You got the little piece of paper, the same thing. No more than walking to an ocean and taking a cup of water and walking away from the ocean. You look in the cup, you still got ocean. So this is the African perspective of being natural in the cosmos. That's why everything is interrelated. And evolution absolutely explains this. That's why we wear the symbol right here. Symbol of evolution. This is an African understanding that will later on become a scientific explanation on why things on planet Earth are interrelated, why living organisms are interrelated and change over time. But the Nile Valley Africans already understood that. This is basic 101. As a matter of fact, the majority of African cultures basically dealt with evolution. You can go into West African cultures and look at the Dinkra symbols. You'll see that that circle dealing with evolution, right? They always dealt with evolution and transformation. So this is an African idea. You would have to look at the Christians and figure out what the hell was they talking about. You feel me? But that's later on. That's later on. That's their doctrine. And even Christianity tries to do the same thing of evolution, and they will say that Jesus Christ represents evolution because Jesus Christ died on the cross. Am I correct in that?
Right. So okay. So can I ask you a question? Do you believe?
Watch this. If Jesus died on the cross and came back again, He just did what? He transformed and evolved back again, right?
Mm-hmm.
See?
I see what you're saying, but I would disagree on the terms. So I guess my question to you is this: so there was so do you kind of hold like the Big Bang Theory, like before there was
Hey, but hold on.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Pause you real quick. I would like to hear your answer to that question. If there's nothing prior to God, and yet creation comes after God, and God is eternal, and he as you say, He's eternal, then I want to know what your answer is to the question of where did God get the things to create in the first place if only God existed at first and there's nothing before him? So where did these other things come from if they're not of himself, of God himself? I want to know the answer to that.
Right. That's a good question.
Yeah, it's called checkmate. That's
Yes.
what it's called.
Yeah.
Checkmate.
I think what you may be holding to is a sort of pantheism, which basically is that, like you were saying, like, one is all is one. Is that accurate?
No. Not what I accept. I'm asking you for your answer to the question because you.
No, I'm gonna answer it. I just want to make sure, or at least I guess I'll just ask Ankh since he was the one who made the statement, and I'll answer the question too.
Yes, pantheism is really soft atheism. It absolutely is. They're saying there's nothing outside of the natural world. That's all atheists are saying, right? Real black atheists are clearly saying, right, that there is nothing that is unnatural. There is nothing that you can verify to prove that it is some supernatural force.
All right, so let me ask you this question, right? Do you believe?
Answer.
No, I am. That's why I'm asking if you believe that the universe is infinitely old.
Wait, let me ask you this. Why? Yeah, I guess real quick. Why does Ankh's view affect your answer to a question directed to you? So, I'm gonna say I'm gonna ask you because this is my question now. I'm gonna ask you the question. If God, according to you, God, there's nothing before God in terms of chronology, in terms of time and everything. God is a priori.
Mm-hmm.
So then all of a sudden, boom, there's creation, and we see the results of creation, and we see it today and everything like that. So I'm asking you, if there's nothing before God, and then there's only God at one point in time, and then all of a sudden there's creation for a duration of time, then where did God get the substance or the things or whatever in order to come up, in order to bring creation about? Where did the substance?
Yeah, I'm trying to answer that question right now. So the point I was trying to, that's why I was trying to ask you guys is if you think the universe is infinitely old.
But that's I'm having a hard time understanding why you have to ask us, me, that.
It's important to what Ankh was saying about pantheism. That's what I'm trying to address the claim of pantheism.
That's right. Say you don't know. Just say you don't know.
No, I'm not saying I don't know. I'm saying because here, all right, I'll just make the point that I'm trying to say.
Well, instead of making the point, I would respect.
Brother, I'm trying to answer the question, man. Okay. I'm trying to answer the question.
All right.
If you believe, and this is in regards to the claim of pantheism, if you believe that the universe is not infinitely old, I mean, the thing is, science shows that the universe had a beginning. Right? The universe had a beginning. It's not infinitely old. So if God is the universe, and the universe is created, then how did that which didn't exist bring itself into creation? So we have to go prior to the matter and the gas and all of these elements and see how did these things come into being, because science
13.5 billion years, right? That's what you're talking about, correct?
Well, I know that's a philosophy in evolution that you add more time, but
No, I'm just simply saying they mark the question. What you're basically trying to say is, does the universe have a date? And I'm saying this present universe, based off of the W map and the Kobe map, right? The Kobe, and dealing with the cosmic background radiation, right? And they measure that in Kelvin, and I'll do a show to explain that, right? Based off of that, what they know, that is 13 billion years old. But that's not the beginning of anything. That's this universe. No one has ever said there wasn't multiverses. They've never said that. They say this particular section of time measures out at 13 billion years.
But the thing
no
is,
scientist would ever say that there's not anything past that, or if there are multiverses. They're not saying that at all.
Right,
they're simply saying that this particular junction measured out at 13 billion years, and they don't claim to know every damn thing. They don't claim to know what's beyond that. Not at all. But you, the Christian, you're supposed to know that, because you made the statement clearly. You said that there is nothing before God.
Right.
Right? And God is separate from his creation. So the question was simply asked, then what did God use in his creation? And you haven't answered that yet.
No, yes, I have answered. Also for the claim that you made with the multiverse, you know that there's, you and me both know there's no evidence for the multiverse. It's just purely a theory.
Yes, but see, here we go again.
Is God theory?
You gotta answer the question, and then we can talk about what the theory is.
Yeah, I'm saying that the reason why I believe that it was God is because we see that the universe was created. Now we look at all the things in the universe, that which is created. So we know that it had a beginning.
I'm not gonna let you off the hook. Can't let you off the hook.
Right.
Just say you don't have an answer for that.
No, I'm saying that we know the universe had a beginning.
No, we're talking about what did God use?
Right.
Right?
If
not himself, what else did he use?
Yeah, I said my position earlier was ex nihilo, which is the Orthodox Christian position, which means he created something out of nothing.
So that's crazy, because
something from nothing outside of creation.
There's how you go?
Right.
No. Why would God have to do that when God got himself?
Wait, hold on. I need, okay, hold up, because now now some people may think this is off topic from Nuwaupianism and all this type of stuff. Now people gonna get a taste of what Nuwaupians used to do. So let me just say this. All right, you said ex nihilo, which is, as you said, something from nothing, as you defined it. Now let me ask you this question: is God omnipresent? Is he everywhere at all times?
Got him.
Yes, he is.
How?
Okay, wait a minute. Now, at what point in a space of where does nothing exist if God is everywhere? Are you calling God nothing?
I believe God is transient. He's a transcendental being.
Okay, now for clarification, please define transcendent.
Right. That basically he transcends his creation. He's. I mean, I don't know how else. I mean, I could pull up. Let me pull up a synonym or something right quick.
No, because you usually when people say transcendent or transient and things, it's another word for permeate. Are you saying God permeates through creation? Is he a part of?
Yeah, well, transcendental here, it says of relating to a spiritual or non-physical realm. So yes, I believe God exists outside of the physical realm.
So now we're talking about a physical realm and a non-physical realm. So now you said, now is God nothing? Let me just get an answer for that. Do you feel that God is nothing?
I wouldn't use the term nothing. As I said, I believe he's transient. The Bible says he's spirit. You can say he's spirit.
Okay. But all right. So God is spirit.
Right.
Okay. Now let me ask you: is spirit nothing?
It's not a physical substance, no.
Okay, but now you said God is everywhere, and you said God is spirit. So let me ask you this. So now let's use the terms you're using. In order and God is everywhere. Now you said God creates ex nihilo, which means he creates out of nothing. So does nothing exist within God?
Does nothing exist within God? I mean,
in other words, you said God is spirit. I'm saying, is there any place in existence where God is not? And you said no, because you said he's everywhere. I asked you if he's omnipresent. You said yes. So that means God's spirit is every single where. There is no pocket in existence where there is absolutely nothing.
So does that mean that by that logic that I can say my computer is God, like my laptop is God, or?
No. Follow the logic, because I'm feeding off of what you're giving me. Like I'm eating your food. So you said God is everywhere. You said God creates ex nihilo, which means he creates out of nothing. So I'm trying to get a proper definition of nothing from you based on your understanding. So if God is everywhere, then your idea of him creating out of nothing defaults back to God using his own substance, which is spirit, in order to create, because you said God is non-physical. So in order for God to create something, if God is everywhere, then God's creation has to also come from his own substance. Because you just said God is everywhere. So when you say he creates out of nothing, where in existence can God create from some place that he himself is not? Do you understand the logic there?
Right. I'm saying, what do you mean by substance? What particular substance will God had to be made from in order to create?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't say God was made, because we already established that God is eternal. And he,
no, not. I'm not saying. I'm sorry if I said that I misspoke. I mean, what substance? I'm not saying that he was created, but what is the makeup? What is his substance that he would have to have in order to actualize a world, to create a world?
According to you, spirit. Because you said God is spirit.
Right.
So I'm saying that God
is an unembodied mind. Like he's not physical. In the person of Jesus Christ, yes, but
Hold on.
Well, and we're talking about like the creation period, so I don't want to get into that. But God is you could say an embodied mind. He is spirit. Yes.
Okay, so now, I'm gonna slow it down a little bit more. If God is spirit, not if, since God is spirit and God is everywhere, then the statement of God creates out of nothing is really a misnomer, because God is actually, he must use a portion of his own spirit in order to bring about something. Why? Because he is everywhere. So, okay, in other words, when God creates, where does he put this creation that's outside of himself when you already said God is everywhere? Where is he going to put it that he's not? And where is he going to get it from if he's already everywhere?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Could you rephrase that last question that you said right now? I don't understand.
You said.
Wait a minute. Let's do this.
I'm sorry.
Let's do this.
I keep hearing this noise.
Yeah, I clearly understand what he's trying to say. If God is everywhere at all times, right? Then there's nowhere that God is not. You get that? But yet you claim God created from nothing. Well, where the hell is nothing? Where is no thing at? There can't be no such thing as no thing, because God is everything. You get that? So here's an even better question. You can't answer that. Watch this. Right? Can God do everything? Is God all powerful? Seriously.
Well, I would like to address the earlier question, but this, I guess your second question. I think if you're trying to bring the if God can commit logical contradictions, I disagree. I don't believe God.
No, I won't want to say that. I want to say, can God do everything? Is God all powerful?
I'm gonna bid my farewell. I'm sorry to interrupt you real quick. I just want to say peace to the panel, peace to the caller, brother. I enjoyed the conversation, and Chuck, I look forward to your blog talk that you mentioned, to have dialogue, open dialogue with other Nuwaupians. Give them a chance to answer and be able to get the things that I've been seeing on Facebook, get it off their chest, to be able to ask questions, so that we can have a similar dialogue we have with the Christian brother, with Nuwaupians, to address the logic flow, things like that. But I got to get going. So
send those numbers to me too.
Hotep, Smash, and everybody else on the panel. I'm missing out some names.
Wudjau, send them numbers to me too, man, so I can send that bread.
All right, I got you. All right. Hotep.
All right. Black African Power. So listen, I just want to finish off with this, right? And then we can finish off with Chuck. I'm simply saying, to the Christian, God is all powerful. Am I correct?
Yes.
So, and can do everything, correct?
Not necessarily. By his nature, since he's perfectly holy, he cannot lie. He cannot contradict himself.
Okay, so then, and that being said, right, can God make a rock that God can't lift?
Yeah, that's why I told you earlier. He cannot commit any logical contradictions. So I disagree with that. And here's the reason why: if God could commit a logical contradiction, then we wouldn't have a problem with it because it would be something he could do. But he can't. But he can't commit a logical contradiction.
So he can't make a rocket he can't lift. So then God ain't on strike. It's funny. Chuck, where you at?
But thanks for having me, Ankh, man. It was great to meet you, man.
Yeah, man. We'll get it in.
All right, man.
Go ahead. All right. Black African Power. Peace. Go ahead, Chuck. Close that out for us.
Okay, in closing, again, like I said earlier, the Nuwaupianism.com website is up there for anyone who wants to access it to look at some of the questions. If they, Nuwaupians who are in opposition to what is on the site, if they feel that I am in error or any of the information is not accurate, please feel free to submit a rebuttal, be it in writing, email, text, or if you want to articulate it in some future forums like the Blog Talk, I'll be happy to entertain them. Because I stand by the information. There's more than enough sources for you to go and check it out. And maybe this in the future, after we have this dialogue, maybe we can put to rest some of these allegations that I hate Dr. York, or that you know, what I'm helping to put out there is in some way a fallacy, because to this date, none of the Nuwaupians have went and took a question and broke it down in refute. And that's what I'm waiting for. I look forward to any type of dialogue. I love debate. I've been doing this since 1990, and I've been doing it pretty effectively. And you know, even with the tapes, you can attest to this. I like to take people apart when it comes to misinformation, and so now it's being applied to York. So by all means, if you feel you got what it takes and that WU-NUWAUPU is the thing, then by all means, bring it. Bring it. But see, at the same time, I'm not gonna. I don't go into this whole sensationalism where you see shows like Sonnetters where you have people going in almost like a professional wrestling event. My thing is, if you ever want to have a debate in person, I mean, there should be a moderator, you know, someone that's not biased, and two individuals articulating a position, bringing forth the evidence and the facts to support that position, and then let the people walk away with that evidence and they decide. I don't need a cheerleading section. I don't need an audience. I don't need that stuff. You want to have a debate, have it professionally. And if that be the case, then feel free to pay for my logging, my plane, my round trip fare, and any other expenses that I may need to get me up out of Hawaii to come to New York as a place. Because a lot of people always say, "Won't you come to New York?" I don't need to come to New York. That's why I say that even with the debate forum, you have time to sit in the comfort of your home. You can type up, you can access all the information you feel that supports you and present it. If you're on a stage, you're not going to have that luxury. You know, I give people time. Here, I throw a question up, and I wait for it. Naturally, no one responds. So it becomes almost trivial, but I'm putting this stuff out there for people so that they can take it and do what they want with it. If they want to share it, if they want to just hold on to it, it all depends on them. It all depends on how you see how you see fit.
Yeah, Chuck, man, I totally agree with you, man. I appreciate your hard work in that, man. I appreciate I appreciate the guy daggone tapes, the Mo Better show.
And
that's what really got me going. Once York was that.
I have all the originals, but I don't have any of the covers. I like to see some of the old covers.
Man, I got the tapes. You know what I mean? I can go get them, boy.
It was fun doing those shows.
Yeah, what's going on?
Oh, what's up, man? Yeah, I think you need to do more of these, man, because a lot of people do think that, you know, that we hate Doc now. But, you know, a lot of stuff y'all was saying, I couldn't really say anything because I was driving, so I had to stop. But a lot of people think, you know, like when he was talking about the beard and he think his beard black and all this other stuff. I remember all that stuff. I remember being in them classes. I was sitting here laughing. I'm like, man, I can't believe we believed a lot of stuff. I think what it was, we was being overloaded with books. He had so many books coming out that you was like, I got to read this book. I got to read this book. Once the book stopped coming out, Then we was like, well, okay. Because I always think to myself, what if you didn't get locked up? By now, we would have been probably grumbling about stuff. We keep moving from place to place. Because I remember when he went into starting to be a preacher, I said, well, maybe he's doing this because of the Catholics got away with molesting kids. Maybe he's trying to run under that umbrella. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was thinking when he went into the Christian stuff, I'm like, come on. Because I remember at the last ball, I was taking his picture. And I said, say cheese. And he said, no, say Jesus. And I said, oh, my God. I said, in my mind, I said, what do you mean say Jesus? I was like, man, come on. In my mind, I didn't say it to him, but I was like, say Jesus. Come on, man.
I tell you what, deep though. I think we sit in, all of us, right, that's been in that school of thought, been in that cult, I think we sit in the best position to really teach the people. Because you can't trick us.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
You can't get us. We was definitely around the best pseudo ever. Trust me when I tell you that. We qualified for this thing right here. People see me banging on pseudo-wisdoms, Phil Valentine, Delbert Blaze, and all that, Bobby Hemmings. Man, because they ain't have shit on y'all. Like young Pharaoh, man, he's nothing. You get my point? Like, you can put one hand like this, don't need no books, and beat Pharaoh all the way down. Like, he's not even prepared for the conversation. You feel me? So, we've been through that, man. I promise you. We've seen the best that ever did it. Chuck will tell you. Feel me when I tell you. Trust me when I tell you that, man. When it comes to putting together that information, that truth and falsehood, that pseudoisms, don't nobody have them beat on that. And I know y'all agree with me on that.
I agree with you.
Yep.
Yeah, we had that luxury. And so now it's our turn and our job to continue to teach the babies, man, and do it right. And teach them. And that's why what you do, Chuck, is so damn important, bro. You know what I'm saying? I just had no idea that was Chuck. Better show. I had no idea. That's just funny to me, man. But
those are funny tapes, yeah.
You know what's funny too? I remember, like you were saying about your beard, and you was dyeing it gray and all that stuff, trying to make it look like Doc. Everybody was trying to look like Doc. Everybody was trying to look like him. Everybody had their beard like him. Everybody had their mustache like him. Everybody, they tried to have a little tail in the back too.
Yeah,
remember? Doing that, they wanted to walk like him and talk like him, because they know that way you can get all the women. If you look like Doc and act like Doc, you can get all the girls.
I ain't never go that far.
Yeah, well, a lot of brothers went that far.
I ain't going that far. I can get it, but
well, there's a lot of brothers had a lot of mates. They were trying to go that route, But the thing is that once he what really pushed me over the edge? Because for a long time I was making up all kind of excuses. Well, maybe he would just mess with young girls. And then when Issa wrote his letter, and then when Bun's daughter, Husna, when she said it, I was like, that's it. This is bullshit.
Man.
Once he said that, I said, okay, come on now. Come on. Everybody can't be lying. Now I feel so stupid because I was making up all kind of excuses. Man, I was like, oh, man, young girls, he could, these girls are putting themselves on him. And then they said, when Issa wrote that letter and Bun's daughter came out, I said, that's it. I said, nah, this is bullshit now. He did this stuff, And I was like, oh, man.
Yeah, man, it is what it is, man. You want to say something, Clarence?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, bro.
I want to get the Nuwaupian facts. They want to debate. They want to debate whoever feel as though that Dr. Young is guilty, whoever feel as though the doctrine is wrong. They want to debate, but so that way. I want to set that up. But they called me when I was.
Set it up.
Set it up. We can set that up, Clarence.
Okay.
Let me ask you this, Clarence. How long you been a Nuwaupian?
I've been a Nuwaupian for almost 17 years.
There you go, Chuck. We got that. Anytime so when you gonna be prepared? We could do this. We could set this up. I'll definitely be impartial. You just put it on the clock, and nobody won't stop you. So what part of the document do you want to debate?
Who you asking, me or Chuck?
I'm talking to you, Clarence, right now. What part of the doctrine do you want to debate?
Oh no, I'm not debating. No, bro. I'm not Nuwaupian no more, bro.
Oh, you gave up. It sounded like you were saying that, didn't it? Oh, you
No,
want to debate against the Nuwaupian?
Now I
yeah,
think that there's a pro Nuwaupian site called Nuwaupian Facts, and they've been around for a few years, and they have a bunch of stuff that's on their site. And I think the brother who operates it is a little upset with my site and some of the things that's being said, and he doesn't want to come to the Nuwaupian debate forum. So he's saying that he would like to do one of these type of formats to where he can debate. And I'm saying to the brother here, right, talk to him, set it up.
yeah, because they called me about a week ago. You know, I was with Nuwaupian Facts for 2.5 years, working on studying the case for Dr. York. I was actually one of the regulars on that show for about 2.5 years. So, but I didn't look at it from the other side of things for him being guilty. So I represented him for 2.5 years, and then I started seeing inconsistencies and everything. So I haven't talked to this brother in a while, and he called me up last week because he heard the show that me and Wudjau, well, I was on there. I was on the show with Garfield when Garfield did the 4-part series on Dr. York's case. And he had finally heard that, and he had called me yelling at me about I turned my back on Doc. You know what I'm saying? So I said, well, okay. Well, I said, basically, he's a kind artist and everything. I let him know my feelings towards him. And then he wanted to challenge Wudjau and to clear things up, clear his name. So I said, okay, I'll try to make that happen for you. He's wanted the forum.
And it's just that's one of the points that was made, that how is he going to try to clear up York's name when York wouldn't even clear his own name up when he had the opportunity to stand on the witness stand and debate. Now, I mean, hold on. Now, York was supposed to be notorious for being able to debate someone, and he was so sharp, as everybody likes to say. But he didn't want to debate the prosecutor, the brother. He refused to get on the stand and speak on his own behalf in his own defense, because nobody can defend themselves better than Dr. York.
That's right.
So Dr. York passed it on. He didn't want to stand up there, and there's a good reason for that.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't see how he can do it, but if he feels he got that kind of courage, then bring it on.
Well, you seen the site. You seen the Nuwaupian Facts site.
Matter of fact, I even put one of the questions from the site on my site, showing that what they wrote was a fallacy, but they never issued any kind of rebuttal to it.
Well, guess what? When I first told him about your site, right? This was during the time I was a regular on the show, and I had went across your site, and I ran into him because he claimed to be like he knew all the information that Dr. York put out. So I gave him your site to look at, and I gave him a question from your site. And he said, "What?" He asked me, "Well, what site is this?" I said, "Well, here, check it out. Go check it out and get back." He never got back.
Yeah. And even just like when the brother Farouk Thomas had asked the question on the validity and the accuracy of what's on the Nuwaupian site that I'm privileged to put up. I mean, even Adrian Patrick attested to the fact that the trial notes that we use that's being presented there is accurate, because this is what Nuwaupians took down.
Right.
Not X. This is what they took down, and we're using that. So all the deceptions and all the mysteries of what was said during the trial is now are out there, and the door has not been closed since. And if he feels he can, I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, leave the lights on for him.
You
know what I'm saying? Miles will get it in, man. It's the age of the damn internet, man. We can set that up anytime we want, man.
Yeah.
Put them on the clock. No interruptions, man. Come on, let's just get it in. Cause the truth of the matter is, man, you know, actually, Nuwaupians, ain't nobody disgruntled. You feel me? I ain't tripping. I'm just I don't want things to happen like happened to those babies, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't want things that like happened to that sister in Baltimore where she was trying to quote the solvent citizen of the Moorish doctrine, and later on she gets her brains blown out in her house because she wasn't all there. She's rolling off the information. And I say this all the time, man, and Chuck attests to this, man. As teachers, man, giving all it mean, you know, Chuck, if your character ain't right, yo, you can take advantage of goddamn people.
Yeah,
man. Seriously.
Yeah.
You know, because people, we're vulnerable, right? Fractured consciousness. And we're listening. We're trying to get the truth. Because that's the only way you can take advantage of that shit like that. Is to go through the transcontinental kidnapping trade and come on the other damn side, go through Jim Crow, go through civil rights movements, you know what I'm saying? Go through getting shot down on the streets and then have somebody speaking intelligent, right? Come to you with some answers, but their character's fucked up and they take advantage of you.
Right.
See, that's what I fight for. That let no child, let no man, no woman, right, be subjected to the pseudoisms. Because pseudoisms does absolutely nothing for the community and is dangerous and it creates cults. Like the cult of Scientology. Look, how many of us is caught up in that? Because we don't use the scientific method to look and to check out information. We don't scrutinize sources. In fact, we just listen to shit because it sounds good. And for those who are the best speakers and the most creative in the way they speak, right, they get the most people. Look at the pseudos. Look at their goddamn views. You feel me? Look at the Bobby Hemming videos, the Phil Valentine videos. Look at goddamn Pharaoh. He ain't been rocking barely a year after taking a beating on Saturday. I beat him from pillar to post. We on 125th, we beat him unmercifully. So it's something about us that just wants to be religious and hold on. Because see, it's hard work to actually sit down and put up a site like Chuck did. With all the references already. You can tell that was dedicated work. Yeah. It's easy just to memorize some shit and spit it out. That's easy. Right? That's easy work. But it's hard to do what he's doing. It's hard to do what we do. Spend hours in books where now I got to wear glasses. You feel me? Get up my damn site. That's hard work, man. To be ready for any question at any time. And then be man enough to say, you know what? I don't know that. Let me check that out.
Well, that was one of New York things. He always said, if you don't know something, say you don't know. But like always, Nuwaupians did the opposite and made things up.
Yeah. Hey, man, shit up, man. So, I mean, you know, hey, there's a reason why we do. Go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah, I got to get ready to make a run. But this was real informative. It was good.
It was.
I think we made some progress tonight. Maybe we build a little bridge over to, you know, some Nuwaupians, and maybe we can have a dialogue on more civil terms. I think.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Chuck.
And I think that is good. I mean, anytime we can make some kind of progress from you know, preconceived ideas that it was all hate and malicious slander. It's far from it. It's just these are the facts. This is the issue. Here's the evidence. Do what you want with it.
Like I like to say, like you said, I'm using the goddamn skill set I learned in Nuwaupu.
You know, I'm just switching it over and putting it towards you now. Yeah.
Don't hate on me. But look, man, I appreciate everybody that came through. Chuck, we're going to have to do this again real soon.
Oh,
man.
absolutely, brother. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. I appreciate everyone that's coming out, listening, watching. There's a whole bunch of people. My phone is blowing up all kinds of questions. I can't, because there was a lot of questions and a lot of things that people wanted to ask that, you know, we just didn't get around to it. So maybe we can do it again. And, you know, we can pull some of these questions up and maybe even have them ask.
We can do it again. Maybe we got time next week, man. We can run that again, man. I like it.
Yeah, we'll see. You know, because I'm a 6-hour time difference with y'all. It's 8 o'clock. It was 8:20 right now, so it's still early
in the morning?
Nighttime, yeah.
Nighttime.
So 8 by 8:30 p.m.
All right. Yeah, we'll run again. You hit me up, man. Let me know we're going to run this again, man. I really appreciate that, man.
Absolutely.
Like I said, it was very informative. I think we kind of gave an insight onto what was really going on and how the doctrine was kind of formulated today. I think that
Yeah.
was very positive. And we gave sources and references to back it up, man. Look, I appreciate everybody for coming through. All right, man. Appreciate y'all's support. Appreciate all the families, the Magi's, the Voices of Fire, you know what I'm saying, the MBK, Amon-Ra Squad, Next Generation, Dagger Squad, man. Y'all know what it is, man. Mossy Warrior Clan. We're going to keep doing what we got to do because we got to do, man. Amon-Ra Squad up.
Hey.
Amon-Ra Squad up.